Well, hi again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football, and this is the Sports Page with Bob Case. And today is a very unique show. Not only is our guest a three-time world champion as a player and a manager, he's experienced both levels of that. One of the greats here in Los Angeles, everybody knows who Mike Scioscia is. But also very unique for me is that I'm actually in Bob's house for the very first time. We had breakfast earlier today. And Bob, I can't tell you what a mausoleum this is. And the office where you are, folks, it is to the eye of the beholder, some of the classic and the relic and the memorabilia that you have collected over your lifetime. Absolutely amazing. So, Bob, first and foremost, thank you for welcoming me to your home and welcoming Mike Scioscia, a very dear friend of yours, and for asking him to be on the Sports Page with us here today.
Well, I'm honored to have Mike as a guest, and all I can say is I have been a Dodger fan since April 18th, 1958, when I was in the Coliseum, one of 78,000 people to see Carl Erskine pitch. So in that time, I have been blessed to see a great run I was a catcher as an amateur and American Legion, high school and everything, and I always loved that position. So I go from John Roseboro and Rube Walker were the first Dodger catchers. And John Roseboro, I got to watch him for years. And then after Roseboro, I got to see Yeager and Mike Scioscia and for years. And, you know, they've really had some really great catchers, even today with Will Smith, who's gotten much better, I might say, as a catcher than he was 3 years ago, but done tremendous. And I've always said that I always thought Mike was the best. They don't do that like they used to, but as far as blocking home plate, I've never seen a better person block home plate than Mike Scioscia. And Roseboro was good, but I thought Mike, I give him the nod on that. Johnny, I'm sorry, Johnny, but I give Mike the nod on that. And they called Roseboro Gabby because he'd say hi in spring training, goodbye at the end of the year, and his nickname was Gabby. He was a great guy and a great catcher. Look at the guys he caught. That's how you can tell. Look who Mike caught. Mike caught Oral Hershiser in that fantastic. He caught Fernando Valenzuela in the Fernando Mania era. I mean, look at the guys he caught and the great job he did at catching. And besides that, as Mark Langell pointed out on the couple shows back, Mark says he thinks that's the greatest home run in Dodger history, not Kirk Gibson, not Mike Scioscia's home run. And I would tend to agree with that because the Mets had lost. The Dodgers, they'd beaten the Dodgers, I think, 10 out of 11 that year. So when they were in the playoffs, without that home run, I mean, it's unbelievable. So, and then he goes on to have a great managing career with the Angels, wins the only world championship. And I worked for the LA Angels when they were at Dodger Stadium. And so to see them win a world championship, even though it's Anaheim, was tremendous in 2002 with Troy Glaus and all these different players. I saw Troy play at UCLA, and so it was so great to see that and the great job he did and just a great manager for all those years. I mean, and how about he managed – we got to ask him what it was like managing Ohtani. You know, he managed Ohtani with the Angels, you know. So, I mean, he's had them all. Mike Trout, Ohtani, all these guys, and great pitching staff with Rodriguez. And anyway, I can't wait to hear Mike talk. And it's just an honor to know him. He's a class guy. You know, he's just a class act. And, you know, he's I don't go to mass as often as he does, but I'm Catholic, and I respect the guys that do. So I love you, Mike, and I can't wait to hear you.
Well, Bob, thank you. And Harper, great to be with you guys. Bob, you read that just like I wrote it. Very nice. I appreciate that. You know, the $20 will be towards our next luncheon that we have. But you said a lot of things there. I think first and foremost, the catching guys that you brought up starts really with Roy Campanella.
Yeah.
And when I came in the Dodger organization, my first three catching coaches were Roy Campanella, Johnny Roseboro, and Del Crandall. Those three guys influenced my career as a player more than anyone. And you're right about Johnny Roseboro, great guy. Johnny Roseboro was the toughest human being I've ever been around in my life, and a great player who started out as an outfielder, switched to catcher, and was some kind of talent. And the guys he called, the Koufax, the Drysdales, the Ron Paranowskis, I can go on and on the list, Claude Osteens, these guys. Johnny Roseboro was a special player. special person that certainly set the tone for what it had to be like to be a Dodger catcher. And I thank God for being around those guys. They definitely got me in the right direction.
You get to meet these guys in Vero Beach very early in your career. And I'm guessing it might be very easy for them to tell you everything you need to know, but it's not really that way. You have to kind of ask and get it out of people. Did you learn that at an early age, or at least when you first got around the Dodger organization? And there's Sandy Koufax.
Right.
You mentioned Drysdale. These are the legends that you may have grown up, maybe not cheering for as a kid, but you knew of them. You were aware of them and the history that was involved with the organization.
My first camp with the Dodgers in Vero Beach, I was 18 years old, so I was not asking a lot of questions.
Right.
I was just listening. These guys, they were so willing to put their knowledge and their just what they've understood. They did it through trial and error, and they figured things out. And their willingness to open up and give all of us the little things that were going to move us forward it was a gift. And the experience they shared with us, the understanding that, Rosie would say, Mike, this game is hard, man. This game's hard. It's not easy, but if you want to be good, you have the talent. You need to work at it, and you need to have that mental toughness of never giving in. And you develop that. I think you get an understanding of what pro ball's about and what it is to be a catcher on a championship team. So all these guys, Sandy Koufax, all these guys were around. Carl Erskine, we met all the boys of summer, and what gentlemen they were, but also you could see the competitive nature that they had, and they wanted us to do well, and they would share everything with us. So it was really a gift to be in the Dodger, in the Dodger minor leagues in the mid to late 70s, with all these guys around spring training and connecting with you during the season too. That gave you the confidence that you could do this.
What a unique time for you as a Pennsylvania guy. The Broad Street Bullies had won 2 Stanley Cups. The Phillies end up winning the series in 1980, your rookie year, right? With was it Bob Boone, and was Darren Dalton a part of that team, or was that a little bit later?
Yeah, a little later. I was Bob Boone.
You had
Rose,
the Sixers. And Dr. J flying high, Daryl Dawkins, Chocolate Thunder. And you're from that neck of the woods. It's a tough city, but they love their sports. They may be a little harder. Have you ever thrown a hot dog wrapper at anybody that is wearing, after you eat the dog, you got to fight and then throw that at a Cowboy fan. Don't you? Do you ever do that? Get caught guilty of being in that crowd, Mike?
Well, definitely with a Cowboy fan. There's no doubt about that. I don't think there's a more hated team besides the New York Football Giants than the Cowboys if you're an Eagles fan.
Yep.
But, to get a seat at Veterans Stadium at that time was tough, and we were way up in the nosebleed. So you had to have some kind of arm if you were going to make it down on the field.
That's why you had to throw it at the fan who was wearing the Tony Dorsett jersey. Someone dumb enough to do that, right? Not the players.
Yeah, we didn't. To be honest with you, Philly in that time, you didn't see too many visiting jerseys. I think they got the message. There weren't many visiting jerseys in there, but that was a coming out age for Philadelphia sports. If you think about the Phillies, who had come close and they won the pennant in 1950.
The Whiz Kids.
The Whiz Kids. 64, they came close, lost in the last couple days of the season. And all the way through the rough times until you had guys like Mike Schmidt, Lazinski, Bob Boone, Larry Boa, all these
Manny Trio.
Manny Trio. They get a team that had the opportunity to win championships, and they obviously they got close to winning pennants in 77, 78. The Dodgers actually knocked them off. They win the championship in 1980. But if you look at what the Eagles did too, the Eagles had so many rough years from 1960 when they won a championship, trying to get through to finally starting to play at a level where you could say, hey, they're championship caliber. And the Sixers, after Will Chamberlain left, just trying to get back into hierarchy of basketball, and you had Dr. J, you had Daryl Dawkins, you had Jordan, you had Malone, you had all these guys
Bobby Jones. Yeah.
Bobby Jones, that's right. Doug Collins, you had all these guys come in, and they were great teams that played in the early 80s. So it was a coming out period for Philadelphia sports. And, I was transplanted 3,000 miles away playing with the Dodgers. So, you try to stay, close to it. But obviously it's a different path than when I was growing up in Philly.
When you were a little kid, I remember the Pirates winning in '70. There were a couple of Bill Mazeroski moments where people would say, well, it's Pittsburgh, it's not Philadelphia. Was there a separation for you? No, I'm a Philly fan. I hate the Pirates. I hate the Mets. I hate the Braves. There's a certain loyalty that you had, or when you're a kid growing up, you couldn't help. You were watching Manny Sanguian. You were watching Willie Stargell, Roberto Clemente as a really young boy.
Philadelphia and Pittsburgh are like, you might as well have the Grand Canyon in between.
Yeah.
There was no connection at all. So the Pirates winning, we didn't feel it. It was just, it's a different, Steelers had all those great teams. We were diehard Eagles fans, and that's the way it was. So the fact of Pittsburgh, it's a different thing. Even in high school, where you would play Big 33, where you'd play the best players from Ohio would play against Pennsylvania. They always picked the Western Pennsylvania kids to play in it. And we were upset because we never got a chance to play. You never got picked for those teams, and we were definitely good enough. So we weren't real fond of the Pittsburgh area growing up. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, there's a chip on your shoulder, without a doubt. I know I can see that you're wearing a Penn State jersey. Collegiately, there's Pitt and Penn State. I'm seeing because of the shirt you're wearing that, no, I'm not a Pitt guy. But Eastern Pennsylvania, Southern New York, no Delaware really, but who are the teams that the college teams that those fans would Temple? Not really. There's not much to cheer for there. Who's the big team that you would?
Yeah, in football, it was usually a Penn State or a Pitt or Notre Dame. With the huge Italian American Catholic community in Philadelphia. But the big thing was really basketball in Philadelphia. We used to have they still have Big Five basketball, where you had the 5 teams of Temple, St. Joe, Villanova, Drexel, and I'm missing one.
St. Joe's, Villanova, yeah, right.
St. Joe, Villanova, Temple, Drexel, and there's one more. I'm losing my mind, but anyway,
I am too.
The Big Five basketball was huge there. They played at the Palestra down at the University. Oh, and Penn. How can I miss Penn? So So they would play there, and the games were broadcast every week. They'd have a special, a doubleheader, and Big Five basketball was huge there. And so you had your allegiance to whatever team you liked. And I was always drawn to Villanova as for a basketball team.
Really?
I want to tell you a funny story. You guys got to hear this. Mike was talking about the '64 Philly collapse. Well, Gene Mock, the manager, was a dear, dear friend of mine. I used to hang with him in Palm Springs and everything. And he told me he could not stand the Angel writer, Ross Newham, because every time Ross Newham would say Gene Mock, he said 40 years later, he would write Gene Mock, 64 Phillies. And that infuriated him because, the truth is Mock is one of the smartest, I've always said, one of the smartest baseball men I have ever been around.
Absolutely.
And, he would if you went to the Hall of Fame for making a 6th place team, a 4th place team, or a 7th place team, a 3rd place team, he'd be in the Hall of Fame. And a lot of people think those Phillies, shouldn't have even been in front when they collapsed, and then the sad thing with the Angel thing with Donnie Moore, but a great manager. And I always laughed about him talking about that Ross Newham always saying Gene Mock, 64 Phillies. He said every time his name.
I'll tell you what, Gene Mock had an unbelievable memory, and I think you're pointing that out. He's not going to let that go. But I think you're 100% correct about Gene Mock, Bob. This guy, I spent a little bit of time with him, not a lot, but a little bit. But and he did see us win the championship in '02. But he was so unique in his ideas, and he really would peel the onion and get down to the layers that were important in baseball, and had a tremendous understanding of of talent, who to put guys in what position, and just a brilliant baseball man that never quite got over that hump that got him into the World Series. And it is that part of it's a shame, but I don't think people in baseball know
Absolutely.
what he was about and his brilliance in the game.
Having the recollection you've mentioned a couple of times here of some of the greats with the Dodger organization, and then Gene Mauch. And was there a time early on, maybe in the high school years? I always ask, when did you know that you had whatever it is for a player, that you could get to the next level? As a catcher, Mike, I'll save this for later because I want to ask you, when you start thinking you've got to call a game, you've got to really read the room, don't you, in terms of what stuff is working with my pitcher today, what's not working and getting guys out, or what is working with some of the guys. You're calculating all the time, and then you got to hit, and then you got to manage other things that are going on throughout the game. It's a very cerebral position. When did you start realizing the importance of your ability to know more than just, I'm going to put one finger down for a fastball and two fingers down for a breaking ball?
In high school, I think like most high school kids, I was never looking past a day.
Right.
You're enjoying the game. You're thinking about the dance on Saturday night, or what's going on in the football game you have that week, or the baseball games you have that week, whatever it would be. So you're not really locked in to say, gosh, what's the next level, and can I play at the next level? I think I was very fortunate to play for a high school coach named Harry Ace Bell that played minor league baseball with the Giants. He actually was a teammate of Willie Mays in Trenton, and settled in Philadelphia and became a baseball coach. And I was fortunate that I had him for 4 years at Springfield High School. And he was the first one to really started to say, Mike, I think you have an opportunity to definitely play baseball in college and hopefully pro ball. Did a lot for me in touching base with some schools to get me an opportunity to be seen. So when did it start to, and here's the thing too, Harper, when you get into baseball, it's not like you say, oh, I'm here. It's a grind day to day to continue to improve, continue to play to your potential. So I don't think you ever say, hey, I've arrived and I've done this. You get to a certain level and you want to get to the next level. You get you go 2 for 3 in a game and you want to go 3 for 3 the next game. You call a great game, call a 2-hitter. You want to go out there the next day and call a 1-hitter. That's what it's all about. So I had early education into some of the things you talked about as far as catching and of understanding pitch selection and the pitcher from my high school coach when I was, I started my senior year in high school at 16 years old because I was on the young end. So
What?
I was like 13 years old.
16 as a senior? Unbelievable.
I played my whole senior season in football at 16 years old.
Wow.
Unbelievable. I was a senior at 16. I mean, I was a sophomore at 16. Jeez.
Well, Bob, some of us are a little smarter than others, I guess. But you know what? So at those impressionable years, impressionable ages, I had some great baseball guys for the time that helped steer me in the right direction.
I've always said you can't teach what you don't know. And it sounds to me, Mike, that, and again, just a moment ago, you mentioned some other coaches that you learned to value because they knew a little bit more. They would have you set up a little bit differently, or they would talk about different nuances of the game that some guys just don't know how to teach. But you were exposed to that pretty early and received it, I'm sure, right? I value the fact that I know somebody who's my head coach who gets me and wants me to be better and to be successful.
Absolutely. Ace Bell really indoctrinated me into what it was going to take to get to the next level. I can remember being, starting my, playing my sophomore year in baseball, and him giving me the understanding to say, Mike, you're throwing, you got a great arm, but we need to work on your footwork. You've got to get this to second base in under 2 seconds, and then you'll get better. But if you're not there now, we we're gonna have to get you there. I remember the endless days of working on your release and working on your timing to get yourself into the, to throw the balls down to second base in 1-9, and being on the younger edge, younger end of the scale. And like I said, I was 16 and started my senior year in high school. I wasn't fully developed. And, you continue to grow, and all of a sudden, all this stuff makes sense. You bring it together. And it came together at the right time for me. And obviously, the Dodgers thought enough of me to draft me in the first round, which was a surprise to a lot of us to me, it was a surprise because the draft is totally different now. And you talk about all the things we need to do as a youngster to put ourselves in that position. I didn't even know the draft was that day that it was. I'm up there playing baseball with my friends. We're playing just.
You didn't even know that you were eligible for the draft when you're being drafted?
I knew I was eligible for the draft, but I didn't know what day it was.
Oh my gosh.
And so all of a sudden I come home, and my dad came home. He came home later in the afternoon from work, and I came home about the same time. The phone rang. He picked it up and said, "Mike, you've been drafted in the first round by the Dodgers." And I was there. What? I didn't even know it was that. It was that day. So times have changed now. When they've got everybody, on ESPN, and there's a hype of all the high school kids. We never had any of that, and I think in some ways it was a good thing. I didn't, I wasn't a slave to thinking I had to do this to get drafted. I would just go and playing the best I can, and it worked out.
Before we move forward, I have one more high school related question. I've asked a lot of guys, did playing one sport help you with another? I would think that the footwork necessary to learn right left with your step to get rid of the ball from a catcher might have been an assistance for your football steps, or vice versa. Was there some sort of correlation that you were able to take in terms of your athleticism and transfer some football skills over to baseball, the speed or the quickness that you need, and vice versa? Was that something that you started to develop, or at least were under the impression that there's a way to put these two sports together and the disciplines that each one of them demand in a way that make me a better player?
100%. I think, and in fact, if we're talking about coaches, my high school coach, Bill McCready's, played for the Eagles, and he was a backup quarterback. He's good friends with Tom McDonald. He played back in.
Okay.
And so he had an understanding of the game well ahead of a lot of the high school coaches who could have been around. And so playing linebacker, whatever your first step has to be, whatever, on defensive line, offensive line, certainly helped me. And I really got a lot out of basketball. Like after my junior year my sophomore year in baseball, Coach Bell told me, he said, "Mike, look at, I just finished my football season." He said, "I want you to go out for basketball." I said, "Coach, I'm no good in basketball." He said, "I know that." He said, "I know that, but I want you to go out for basketball, and I want you to continue to work on your footwork and quickness through the season." And I did it. And I was a terrible basketball player. I ran out of fouls by halftime whenever I was in the game. And I was only playing part-time. I wasn't even starting. But the practice time I put in, everything else, it really fine-tuned a lot of the footwork that you're talking about, Harper. And I think it gave me a better opportunity to apply that in baseball. And coincidentally, we're talking about your pop time down to second. That definitely got cleaner, started to decrease as I got my footwork better and as I grew as a person. And I think it all happened for a reason, no doubt.
Interesting how you put it the way you did, Mike. You run 3 gassers or suicide drills, whatever you want to call them, line drills, and there's a certain exhaustion that you don't have in other sports. And now you got to make a free throw, or now you've got to really focus. No, you're too high on your defensive slide. Do it again. And then you got to run all over again. There's a fatigue factor and a discipline that keeps you lower as a linebacker, which keeps you more powerful when you're at the plate, right? They're combining all those different disciplines. I think it's an amazing thing. And when you learn to master it that way, guess what? You're going to be a better player.
Well, the research has advanced so much, and they talk about ground forces. And that's what we're talking about is your body's going to be stronger as you use those ground forces, and it's tough to use them if you're not in an athletic position. And there's nothing like being in basketball shape. You can talk about playing football. You can talk about how much the wide receivers run. You can talk about baseball, how much you catch or how much the pitchers have to throw. There's nothing like basketball shape. And these guys are running, and we used to run those suicides all day long, and just to be in shape. And that was, that was just something you did, and you weren't doing it for any reason other than you wanted to be part of the team. But I think as you get hindsight, you can see how it helped you so much in some of the things you're talking about.
Yeah, the change of directions and the fatigue factor. If you're not a basketball player, and your coach said, "I know you're not a basketball player, but you need to learn how to do this when you're tired and fatigued, and when you can't breathe anymore because you're breathing so hard." I love every aspect of it. But obviously, you get the call. The Dodgers are interested in you. You're the number one selection for the team. Number 18 overall. Is that correct?
19th pick, yes.
And a lot of guys made the league from that first year. I don't have the list in front of me, but some really recognizable names. Are you 17 when you get the call, or 18?
17.
And
17.
And
Summer of 1976.
You're 17 years old, and now you'll be in Vero Beach in no time. Or was this a mid-season thing where you got to go to double or triple, single A? What was the next step for you?
Oh yeah, no, it was rookie ball. Bellingham, Washington. I signed in 1976, 17 years old. And it's a funny story how I signed, real quick. I was really intent, and when I got drafted by the Dodgers, my mom was a school teacher for 30 years, and she comes home and she goes, "I'm very proud of you. You're going to call the Dodgers, and you're going to tell them thank you for the consideration, but you're going to go to Clemson. You're going to get your education." And I said, "Okay, Mom, if you know anything about an Italian-American household, you know the mother is the one that's making decisions." So I told my mom, I said, "Okay." I called Ben Wade. You remember Ben Wade, Bob, who was the scouting director of the Dodgers?
Greg Brock. He said Greg Brock was the greatest big.
Yeah, exactly. But so I call Ben Wade out in Los Angeles. I say, "Mr. Wade, this is Mike Scioscia. Mike, great. We're happy to have you, drafted." I said, "Well, thank you for the interest." Just like my mom scripted it. "Thank you for the interest. I'm going to go to Clemson University. I'm going to go to school." And this is like the next morning after the draft. And so he says, "Mike, just hang tight. We'll see." So a week goes by, 2 weeks goes by. I don't hear anything from them. All of a sudden, now we're getting into almost July, and the phone rings at my house, and my mom is up still doing stuff at school. My dad's working. I'm the only one home. Phone rings at noon. "Mike there." "This is Mike. This is Tom of the Sorter with the Dodgers." I said, "Yeah, right." Boom, I hang up.
Did you really? You hung up?
Hung up. He goes, "Mike, he calls me right back. He goes, "Mike, this is Tom of the Sorter." And I'm thinking, who's one of my friends have, their dad or somebody calling me, messing around. He goes, "No, this is Tom of the Sorter. They were in playing the Phillies, and Tommy was still the third base coach at that point." He said, "I'm going to pick you up in 1 hour. We're going to go down to Veterans Stadium. We're going to work out." He said, "By the end of the workout, I'm going to make you a Dodger." So I said, "Okay, Mr. Lasorda, great." I hang up. He knows where I live. 1 hour to the minute. I put my glove and spikes there just in case this is true. 1 hour to the minute, I see this Lincoln Continental pulling up to the driveway, and it's Tommy and his brother was driving. And I get in the car. And my mom and dad aren't home, so I write on a piece of paper. My mom would put a pad of paper on the table, and that's how we communicated.
That's your notepad, right?
"Mom,"
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I said, "Mom, we don't have cell phones, nothing, no answering machines yet." I said, "Mom, I'm going down to work out at Veterans Stadium with Mr. Lasorda. I'll be back later tonight." Boom, leave it there. Go. I go work out. I have the worst workout you could ever have in your life. And so at the end of it, I'm thinking, gosh, do I have to pay these guys to sign if I want to sign, or what? Because they don't want me. He goes, "Mike, he's there. You're young. You're strong. We want you to be a Dodger." Tommy does. So he said, "We'll be in touch." So I get a ride home. My mom and dad are still waiting up. Now, this is after I stayed for the game. This is at midnight. And I said, "Mom, Dad, I want to sign with the Dodgers. I don't want to go to school." And my mom was crushed. And she was crying, and she goes upstairs. And 2 days later, I'm on a plane to Walla Walla, Washington for my first professional game. I signed with the Dodgers. and it was because Tom of the Sword took me under his wing and just convinced me to sign instead of going to school. So you talk about, the forks in the road of your life. That's one that obviously was huge for me. And that's how I became a Dodger. And as you said, the first step is rookie ball. I'm 17 years old. I go play rookie ball. And on the rookie ball team, we had Dave Stewart, who pitched for the A's and had a great career. Rudy Law played a long time in the major leagues. Tack Wilson, who ended up playing in the big leagues with the Angels for a while. So we had four guys that made it to the major league off our rookie league team, which was a lot. And so our so your evolution is just really put your foot in the door, learn the game, and as a rookie, and you play from we played about 50 games in the summer of '76, and you go instructional league. And I went from rookie ball to A ball to Double A to Triple A to the major leagues in 4.5 years, and that was my ascent.
Was there a part of the Walla Walla experience, especially early on, where you're homesick and what did I do? What was going on there? But at a level from a baseball perspective, you go, it's not easy, but I can do this. And in a comfort level while being uncomfortable, being by yourself at 18 years old for the first time in your life.
17 years old.
17, excuse me.
17. I mean, it was young. I was young. But I'll tell you what, the homesick part of it didn't really hit me because I think it's exciting to be out. It's exciting to be out with guys. Great group of guys I still keep in touch with as friends to this day. When did I think, what did you do? Was the first couple of games I played, I was the worst guy on the field. We played against San Diego Padres minor league team in Walla Walla, Washington. I was the worst guy on the team, on the field, both teams. I'm thinking, like, what did I do? I'm thinking, this is crazy. And then as the season went on, you figure things out. I ended up making the All-Star team, and I had they said I had a real good, growth span in that time and started to catch better. And so you start to get your confidence, but you never, that first time was like a cold slap in the face when you're on the field and you're seeing these kids a lot of them already played college ball. Some of these kids were, the speed of the game is incredible, even at rookie league level than you're used to playing. And you just play and you figure it out.
And the coaches, I guess, or the managerial aspect of it was, we know there's some kids that they've got the potential. They're just uncomfortable right now. We got to get them through it. We got them to get where they can play at the highest level like they did when we saw them in high school and picked them in the first place.
I hope so, because I'll tell you what, I think it did happen. If it didn't happen, I would have been out of there in a week. I was like,
yeah,
I was so bad.
Yeah.
But I had this is where you have to really know that people come into your lives for certain reasons. Had an incredible rookie league manager named Bill Barrier who coached at Juniata College in Pennsylvania. He was a baseball coach there. In the summer, he would work with the Dodgers. And this guy was so positive and knew when to say, hey, you need to get better at this. Let's go. And when to say, hey, you're okay. It's going to come. Just be patient. Just be patient. And, it just starts to evolve. So it's that guiding force that helped me to understand there's a process to this. You need to do it every day. You need to continue to get better. And I was fortunate that the potential that scouts saw in me to draft me so high, came to fruition. I was able to make it to the major leagues and play a long time.
Yeah, no kidding. The patience and all that. I found a couple pictures of you. Albuquerque. I can't think of all of them, but there are so many players from that era that you were talking about that went through Albuquerque and ended up being big leaguers. And the Albuquerque team, from a AAA perspective, there's a good group of guys, and they were very good against all the other opponents that you guys went against. I don't know if there's a a rating system that you had, but what did that mean to you in terms of, I'm on a good team and I'm a good player on a good team. I'm getting it now and I'm just a step away. I know Steve Yeager was the catcher there with the Dodgers for a while, and you had to go through him, obviously, but it was just a waiting game, I guess, for a little while for you to get called up and be a part of the team.
Right. A lot of things. We had a great group of guys that we played together for a while. And in Albuquerque, you had Dave Stewart, you had Mickey Hatcher, you had Rudy Law, you had Pedro Guerrero. All these guys, we played as a team and played well.
With Sachs and Mike Marshall and a few of the other young guys, right?
They were 1 year behind us. So
okay.
We played in '79. Those guys were all in AA, and so we were in AAA, and they came up, a year after we did. But the thing about getting, Steve Yeager, first of all, was the best defensive catcher I ever saw in my life. He was unbelievable. So in my workout, I talked about going to Philadelphia. I had to throw infield after Steve Yeager just took a round. He had the best arm I ever saw in my life, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. But him being a right-handed hitter and myself being a left-handed hitter gave me an opportunity to put my foot and crack the door open a little bit and get a chance to play against right-handers. And I was 21 years old when I got called up to the big leagues and playing against right-handed pitchers. Actually, Steve Yeager was there, Joe Ferguson's there, and they both had gotten hurt, so I started to play every day. And it gives you the opportunity to show your skill set, but also understand the beast of what the major leagues is about. And I think that's an important thing in any major league that you're playing in, whether it's basketball, football, hockey. You got to understand what the challenge is. You got to understand what's there and what you have to do. And that helped me. That helped me tremendously. So coming up and getting your foot in the door and getting opportunity to play was important at that time.
One of the things you just mentioned about being a left-hander, there aren't a whole lot of catchers that hit left-handed. That was a very unique advantage for you, wasn't it? I mean, it's just hey, I hit from the left side, you have your whole life, but your ability to be even as a pinch hitter, as long as you could perform, you're a second reason why. There's three reasons that we want him. We want him because he can play, we want him because he can catch, and we want him because he's a left-handed bat late in the ball game. I mean, there's so many pluses that you check off in the box that were advantageous for you for just that combination alone.
Well, the first thing is it's a defensive position, and that was ingrained in us from day one about what you needed to do on the defensive side of it. And everything that was told us is from when I first got on the field in Walla Walla, Washington, was, Mike, there are major league catchers and then there are Dodger catchers, and we want to make you a Dodger catcher. What's encompassed the whole thing of it being such a defensive position in every aspect, whether it's a play at home plate, calling a game, controlling a running game, blocking the ball, doing all the things that are important to making a catcher a well-rounded player. This was drummed into you. And in fact, you talk about AAA with Albuquerque. One of the not highlights, almost low light of my minor league career was Rickey Henderson was playing in Ogden, and he was playing in the A's AAA team. And we'd always talked about from day one hanging in there and plays the plate, which started earlier because in Philadelphia area, when you're a young catcher, you always wanted to hang in there and plays the plate. But it was stressed to you, the Dodgers, how to make the play, how to hang in there. Well, Rickey Henderson is on third base, and he hits me so hard on a play at the plate that knocks every part of my equipment off my body, knocked the glove off my body with the ball in it. And you just knew this guy was going to be something special. And obviously, Rickey had a Hall of Fame career. But that's some of the early guys that were playing in AAA at that time with us, and everybody played the game hard. So from that end of it, understanding it's a defensive position, I think that's where I put most of my focus. And then, the gravy, the cherry on top of the ice cream is being a left-handed hitter. As I said, got me an opportunity to play. Now, if you can't hit, it doesn't matter. If you can't hit right-handed or left-handed, it doesn't matter what side of the plate you bat from.
Right.
Yeah. I was fortunate enough to contribute enough with the bat that it gave me an opportunity to get playing time.
Hey, Mike, did Ricky speak to you in the third person when he crashed into you and said, Ricky's going to hit you hard? Did he say that? Do you remember that?
He might have, but I don't remember it. I'll tell you what, he knocked the snot out of me, and it was all legal play. But Ricky was actually younger. Ricky was in AAA at 20. He was, I was 20. I'm sorry, he was 19. He was young. But I'll tell you, you talk about a guy that played the game hard and could run, and I'll tell you what, there was no stopping him.
Who was more nervous when he got on first base, you or the pitcher?
I think the pitcher, because I think as a catcher, you understand you just got to make your throw. As a pitcher, you understand that he's going to walk to second base if I don't, and he might anyway if I don't mix this up a little bit. There's more pressure on a pitcher to make adjustments than there is a catcher.
Yeah. Hey, Harper, I want to say one thing. I was privileged to have lunch about a month ago. We have lunch a lot, but this time we had 3 major league managers and a general manager at the table. Ned Colletti, Bill Russell, Bobby Valentine, and Mike. And if you would talk about wanting to be a spider on the wall, I listened, and it was one of the greatest. It was just, for a guy that's a baseball whack job like me, I couldn't have asked for anything better. And what's so interesting to me is that I asked Mike, I said, Mike, who was probably one of the greatest catchers I've ever personally witnessed, I said, who's the greatest defensive catcher you've ever seen? And that's when he told me about Yeager. And that coming from him, because I always thought Yeager was, I think they're equals actually, but I thought Yeager was one of the best defensive catchers and never got credit. But when I heard Mike say that, and think of all the catchers as a manager and a player that he was against, and for him to say Steve Yeager was the best defensive catcher, and that you don't hear that, and it was good to hear it from his mouth. And the other thing I want to say is, how many great major league managers were ex-catchers? If you think about it, what a great learning position. Bruce Bochy's a Hall of Famer.
Yogi.
The guy that's managing the Toronto Blue Jays as a minor league catcher, did a great job managing.
Schneider, yeah.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of ex-catchers that were great managers, and I think it's the greatest position in the world to manage, because a catcher to me is a quarterback. A quarterback that calls the plays, knows all the stuff, knows what's going on, and I just think I've always loved that position. It's my favorite position as a fan and as a player, was catching. But anyway, I just wanted to say about that what he said about Yeager was really mind-boggling for me to hear it come out of his mouth.
As a catcher, Harper, a lot of people don't understand the athleticism you need to be a catcher. They think you're just down there in a squat, you're catching a ball, you're just putting down fingers, or now it's the pitch calm, whatever, and you're not really invested. The physical athleticism is on par with anything you're going to see in athletics. It's the first step quickness. It's the ability to get your body in a position to block a ball properly, to keep it in front of you, to frame pitches. And what Steve Yeager did was so effortless. It was just natural ability that he had to control that little 3x3 area that you're in, and to do the things that you need to do to control a game. And it was effortless for him. And that's why I say, besides he had the best arm in baseball, but out of all the other things he did, it was just so effortless, and he was such a top-notch receiver.
Why do you think he doesn't get the credit that maybe a Darryl Porter, or Manny Sanguian, Thurman Munson, obviously bench, Bob Boone? There are other great catchers in that era, and nobody really throws his name around. But I know, as a defensive, Vin Scully would tell us all the time, when Steve is in there, he's going to frame the pitches, and the actual pitchers themselves want him there. But he is so good at getting the ball down to second base. He is a run preventer, and but he doesn't get a lot of the credit with the greats, with the Hall of Famers.
Well, you're talking about the royalty of catching. You talk about Johnny Bench, and you talk about Darryl Porter, Manny Sanguian. These are more offensive-minded catchers. They were good on the defensive end, but their real talent was with the bat, and they swung the bat too well that they had to play. They just had to play and behind the plate. But Steve Yeager maybe didn't carry the bat that Johnny Bench did or these guys did. But as far as the defensive aspect of it, there's no doubt that he was the head of the class, in my opinion.
Yeah. Did you learn positioning and how to block a plate? You think it's so simple. It's not. But there's a technique. Like you were always pointing, your feet were pointing towards the third base bag. You had a different approach where most people would be a little squarer to the mound, if you will. Was that a technique that you learned or were taught, or is that just something that comfortably was the right spot for you, where let's say your left foot is basically just on where the line would be, giving up that half the plate for yourself and the other half, the back end of the plate, would be for the runner? What was the science behind the reasoning for you to be where you were?
A couple of things. I think, first of all, from playing football, you knew how important it was to get underneath a runner or get low. And you never wanted, you wanted that leverage point to be low. As I applied it into baseball and trying to get low, your knees only bend a certain way. And they're not, if you're sideways, you're really exposing your knees and your hips to, your ankles to getting steamrolled. So what I try to do is stay square, get your knees on the ground as soon as you can. If I got my knees on the ground, I felt like I protected my knees, and get as low as I can to where if the guy was going to knock you over, it was give to it. Almost like drawing an offensive foul in basketball. You want to get your knees on the ground, but stay soft and let a guy knock you over. And that's a technique that no one really taught me that. I think it just evolved over the course of time and playing the position. And now, obviously, it's obsolete because of the fact of not being able to block the plate as aggressively as we were able to. So that play has changed.
Well, you mentioned Ricky. I know there was a Chili Davis collision. There were several others. Of course, you had a number of them, but your body frame and your athleticism, as you mentioned a little while ago, I would imagine there were a lot of guys that said, I'd rather hit somebody else than hit Scioscia. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go in. I'll slide around and maybe get out rather than go through that guy. Did you know, or were you aware of that as being another one of the positive factors that you carried with yourself? In other words, hey, he's got to go through me. I don't know about anybody else, but if he wants to go through me, we're in for a fight.
I never really kept tabs on who would slide, who would knock you over. I think it just was contingent on how close the play was and if you had the ball in time. So I just assumed everybody was going to knock me over. I wanted to get my body in that position to assume that somebody's going to hit you with their best shot. And so I think the thing is, I would always focus on the baseball. There's one thing that Roy Campanella definitely told me. He said, look, you're going to hang in there and place the plate, but it doesn't make any difference how strong you are, how you block the plate if you don't have the ball. So what I wanted to do was make sure that I focus on the ball, the hop of the ball, focus on that. And it will kind of help me in a split second to relax and take your mind off of, a guy like Chili Davis or, Bo Jackson, although we never crossed paths. A guy like that, is coming, and that's going to be, that's going to be the guy you have to make the play on. It's going to be his determination whether it's a collision or not yours. So it helped me to focus on the play is just look at the ball, stay soft, and if they did hit you, at least you're going to hold the ball and you're going to make the out, and that's it.
Well, we got a picture of Chili in the Twins uniform on the left. I'm looking at legs, and this dude is one powerful guy. He didn't look the same when he was with the Giants, but it doesn't matter. I mean, that was a classic that any catcher of any era would go, yeah, there was some contact right there. You know what I mean?
Well,
so you're in the club,
Chili,
aren't you?
Hey, Chili was 6'2", 225 when he was young, and not an ounce of fat on him, and he could run.
Yeah.
And he got a lean on me one game, and I held on to the ball. I don't know how, but I'll tell you what, he got a lean on me, and the ball got there. I was focused on the ball just as I caught it. He hit me as hard as you could possibly hit a player. And I gave with it a little bit, but I was sore for a week.
you remember Dave Parker and Nalen Yeager?
Oh my gosh. I mean, you won't see those anymore, Bob. As far as the huge impacts that we had as a catcher. But Dave Parker, Bo Jackson got Rick Dempsey. Dave Parker got Yeager. Pete Rose got Ray Fosse.
Ray Fosse,
you
yeah.
can name a lot of the tough collisions that Carlton Fisk unfortunately tore his knee up on a play at the plate because he wasn't in a good position to make the play, and that's that's all. And I'm not going to say it's totally bad that it's not part of the game because you can see where something could really happen, but it's the game has changed. That nature of that play has changed, and there's a different technique now to make it.
As a hitter, if you don't mind, I want to change to that. That one of the things that I noticed about you, you had a wider stance than normal, and I found a couple of pictures. Mike, your ability to move your bat up and down and find kind of the sweet spot, almost from maybe one game to another, was very interesting to me. That you're a thinking hitter's man. Pete Rose put it this way once. He was on MLB Network, and he goes, Alex Rodriguez asked him, he goes, what do you do when you're in a slump? He goes, well, I don't get in a slump. I don't call it a slump. But if I get in a lull where I'm not hitting, I do one of six things. I move up in the box, or I move back in the box. I move in towards the plate, or I move away towards the plate. I either choke up on the bat, or I choke down on the bat. My swing got me in the big leagues. How I adjust, if their guys throwing a curveball and it breaks a little early, I might move up in the box a couple inches to try to hit the ball before the break. You did that with your hands, at least in my opinion, when you'd move the bat around to try to find a better balance for yourself. And you had a very level swing. You weren't trying to uppercut and hit home runs all the time. I think you're the guy that wanted to hit the ball off the wall and be standing on second base. Was that kind of your approach at the plate?
Well, yeah. I found out very quickly about what one of my talents were and what it wasn't. I was never hitting those towering home runs that would keep going. I was a line drive hitter, very good at making contact, and I think that played into what Tommy Lasorda saw and the way we played the ball, the way we played baseball in the 80s with the Dodgers was, look at anybody in our lineup, you might have to bunt, you might have to hit and run, you might have to move runners. And certainly with two strikes, and that's changed a little bit in today's game, 2 strikes, you put the ball in play. If you walk back to the dugout with 2 strikes because you swung from your butt and missed a pitch by a foot, you heard it from Tommy Lasorda saying, look, make some adjustments. You can't swing that way with 2 strikes. So I was conscious on putting the ball in play, certainly with two strikes. And that's, I think you said it best with Pete Rose, these little adjustments that you have when you're playing every day have to be there. So for myself, depending on the pitcher you're facing, depending on the situation, if there was a guy on second base and nobody out, I knew I had to pull the ball. And if I got a couple pitches and I fouled them off, I knew that what was important to me was to choke up a little bit, shorten my swing, and get the barrel about to the ball quicker to give myself a better chance to hit it on the right side of the infield. And these are things that you learn. Against some pitchers, I might have spread out, maybe not choked up as much, let the ball get a little deeper because I knew I was trying to fight the ball off to left center field. If it was a left-handed pitcher, then I maybe had a little trouble with. So all these things are things that you get through experience. And, through a whole career, I made those adjustments.
Yeah. You mentioned something, the cat and mouse game between pitcher and batter. Runner on second base, you want to pull it. Well, the pitcher knows you want to pull it, so he is not going to give you a pitch that you can pull. He's going to want you to hit one to short to hold the runner and then get you out. That would be a win for the pitching standpoint. And you know that. I'm just saying from a 8, 10, 12-year-old kid's perspective, how do you coach that? How do you expose kids to situations like that you, even in the big leagues, are learning new things about how to play the game and what the right thing to do is. Albert Pujols just recently, I saw a video of him in the batter's box. This is a couple years ago, but I only saw it recently, where his hitting instructor, some guy is talking to him, is giving situations, runner on second, move the runner. He's placing a job and a perspective. My job at the plate is to move the runner. Steve Garvey once said, When I come up with the bases loaded, my job is to get the ball through the infield. I don't care how I do it, but I want to put it in play, and it has to get through the infield. Learning all of these situations and being able to master them.
Oh, absolutely. I think for myself, the one thing you said there about hitting the ball on the right side of the infield with the guy on second base. This came from Johnny Roseborough. Helped me with this a lot on the offensive end, just talking to me. He said, "Look, Mike, get closer to the plate, especially if you have a right-handed pitcher that's good getting that ball in the outside corner. Move a little closer to the plate and look for the fastball away on the outside corner that you're going to hook." And he said, "Then anything inside, you'll still get your hands through and be able to pull it to the right side. The toughest pitch for you to hook is going to be that fastball in the outside corner. That if you're just hitting normal, don't miss hit it, it's a fly ball to left field or a ground ball to short. You need to get on the plate and hook that pitch, and then everything else falls into place. And that helped me a lot with those situations. But these are things that you need. Why those guys need the 1,500, 2,000 plate appearances in the minor leagues to develop. And I think we're seeing a lot of guys that are rushed that don't have that skill set totally refined yet, and it's tough to do it at the major league level. And I think if you look at the World Series, there were so many chances for, especially Toronto, to move runners with guys in scoring position. They weren't able to do it. And you have to credit some of the Dodger pitchers, but there's certainly a team aspect to the batter's box that you have to be understanding of. And as a Dodger in that era, with Tom of the Sorter, we absolutely were. We knew what we needed to do in certain situations to help put the team in a better position.
Hey, Mike, I have a question for you.
Yeah, Bob.
Watching the World Series, I'm just shocked. The Dodgers have a pitcher, a right-handed pitcher. And if you're in the big leagues and you're a pitcher, shouldn't you know how to hold a runner on first base, especially in the World Series? Okay? I see this guy. I could have stole second base on this guy. And I'm dead serious. I saw, and you know who I'm talking about, a right-hander. He releases the ball, and the guy's almost at second base by the time he released the ball. He didn't look at him once. Now, how can you do that in the World Series if you're a big league pitcher? Can you answer me that, Mike?
Well, some guys have ability to throw the ball very, very hard, great pitchers, but they haven't mastered how to get their leverage in a little more efficient manner. And I can go through pitchers. I can go through Nolan Ryan. I can go through Doc Gooden. These guys all throw 100 miles an hour. They couldn't hold runners on, but it didn't show up that much as far as in their game because they had so many strikeouts in their game, so many mishits, pop-ups, that even if you did steal the base, there was a good chance you were stranded at second base. So to say a pitcher can't do it at major league level, there are pitchers that have struggled with this for years. And as they try to get quicker to the plate, their stuff diminishes, and it's more of an advantage for the hitter. So from the defensive perspective, you naturally you want some pitchers to make it tougher for a runner to get his jump, but not at the cost of affecting his stuff so much that he's going to throw pitches that are not effective, and that's just part of the game.
That's a good answer. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, very interesting perspective. I appreciate it. Well, learning different pitchers and what they've got, their strengths, their weaknesses, and turning that into a victorious every 9-inning episode that you would have requires a lot of homework, a lot of discipline on your part. There's one in particular when you're a young kid, you're just getting called up and you're a part of this, and you meet some other rookie from Mexico. His name is Fernando Valenzuela. You even learn Spanish so you can communicate with him a little bit better. What was it like, both being young guys, but being a part of really the Fernando mania? It didn't start that way, but it really turned into something that was absolutely amazing. I think it was great for the game, Mike. And here it is. You're a part of this. You're with this guy each and every day, and he's throwing this screwball that nobody knows how to hit, and you know when to call it. Was there ever a time where you just start laughing, knowing he's going to throw it right now, and you're going to look like a fool and go back to the dugout, and I'm going to make $5 on the bet that I had with a couple of the guys?
couple things there, Harper. First of all, I learned Spanish because I wanted to eat the Dominican Republic. I played baseball there for 2 years, and you go to the Dominican Republic, and you are not going to get too many English-speaking waiters and waitresses there. So you're
Sure.
looking at the menu; it's all in Spanish. So I made a quick study to know that. When I thought I was ordering shrimp and they brought an eggplant, that
Yeah.
that wasn't real happy. So, you wanted to, you obviously wanted to do it. Fernando was a special talent. I think he had the mental acuity. He had the confidence in his stuff. He knew how to compete. And when I mean compete, almost like it's a little different than football. Football, that adrenaline gets you. You want guys to run through a wall. I've seen a lot of players get distracted because of the situation, not because they're scared or timid, because they're the other way. They're too much. They're trying too hard because they know the gravity of the situation. The great ones, Fernando, Oral Hershiser. My first week in the major leagues, I'm catching Don Sutton, Bert Hooton. These guys understood the art of pitching and what they needed to do. And Fernando did it at such a young age. You talk about how he would set up hitters. He would never start pitching until he had to in a game. And what I mean by that is a lot of pitchers get out there and they want to, I'm going to strike the sides out. Fernando rather hit a nice routine fly ball to center field on one pitch than have to throw 3 pitches to try to strike you out. Now, he had to strike out when needed it, but he might not throw a screwball to the 3rd inning because of how the game progressed. And he had such uncanny command with his fastball. I mean, he can move that ball literally an inch. And what an understanding of what he wanted to do. And it just you just can't teach that. And I'm very thankful for the opportunity to play in an organization like the Dodgers, which had always been pitching rich, understanding the value of pitching. And I think the epitome of that is what you see in Fernando Valenzuela in his career.
Greg Maddux once said in an interview, he goes, I didn't want my catcher in my bullpen warm-up session to know what I was throwing because I wanted him to be able to tell how the ball was moving in a way that wouldn't be a surprise to the batters. I imagine you on numerous occasions would be in the bullpen warming somebody up, and when you go out in the first inning, you're thinking, this guy's got something tonight. This can be a special game, or he may not have it. I'm going to have to really call a good game. But with Fernando, and especially with the screwball, was something that nobody knew how to hit anyways. That rabbit in the hat or the ace up your sleeve, that one pitch that you can get somebody out with. There's something very unique here, and it was a confidence builder for you as a player, I'm sure, right? For your ability to get the best pitches out of him and leave the crowd amazed.
Well, I can't take too much credit for what Fernando did. He was unbelievable on his own, but I do know the adjustments that we would make. And on some given days, Fernando, maybe his first couple innings, maybe his curveball wasn't as sharp as it needed to be, or the screwball wasn't quite there, maybe, and we would never give up on a pitch. And I tell Fernando, let's go out there in the next warm-up pitches and just throw 7 curveballs. We're going to find it. And he would find a way to make his adjustments that he needed to get him back where he needed to be. But he had so many things he could do with the baseball. He wasn't just a simple pitcher that had a fastball and a curveball. And if the curveball wasn't working well, he'd be in trouble. He had so many things he could do with a baseball. I mean, he had a nasty slider. He had he developed a cut fastball later in his career. But he had uncanny command of his fastball in and out. Great breaking ball. I mean, this curveball was tight. You could hear it. And then obviously the screwball, all out of the same location. And that's a same release point. And that's what Fernando was. He was just a natural talent. Worked very hard at his craft, understanding it, and had an unbelievable feel for what he could do on a given time. And he was just special.
Yeah. And then a couple of wins into it. Talk a little bit about being a part of this. I'm not going to call it a circus, but it certainly changed baseball. Mark the Bird Fidrich would play with the mound and kind of cater it and tend it. That got a whole lot of folklore from a media perspective. But with the Mexican and the Latino, and then the combination of certain things that were a part of his success, and everybody getting a chance to celebrate that, the mania that was a part of that, and then obviously the World Series. You were a part. I mean, that's you're there. What was that like for you, first and foremost, and that portion of baseball history that you get to be a part of?
Oh, it's you get goosebumps still thinking about what he did for Fernando Mania in 1981, and how good he was against some incredible teams. And he went out there and pitched his game, pitched great in the playoffs. Pitched our clinching game in Montreal when it was literally 25 degrees out, and he pitched 8 2/3 innings, gave up 1 run, and that's the game when Rick Monday hit the home run, and Bobby Welch came in for the last out, just for a matchup. But Fernando, he accomplished so much and took it all in stride. I mean, he was devoted to his family, devoted to the team, always working hard out there early, and to be a part of that, we all, like I said, it's tough to absorb it when it's going on because I'm thinking about what do I have to do as a catcher, your next game, your next pitch to pitch, who you're catching, to really sit back and enjoy it. But you knew it was something special and it was happening. And as the years have moved on, you get to appreciate it more and more. And I'm very thankful to just be a part of it because not only were you witness to something that happened, but the confidence it gave myself as a player to know not only what Fernando was doing, but what our team was doing against incredible competition. It's something that stuck with me my whole career.
Yeah, the team itself, from an organizational standpoint, struggled through the Big Red Machine in the 70s. You get to the 74 World Series. That was in the swinging A's era. You lose that. And then you don't get there again for a couple of years. Twice you lose as an organization to the Yankees, and then you finally get one, the first one in 15 years, and it's good to be the king, right? I mean, you get, but then guess what? That's competitive baseball, and it's not until '88 again. Yeah, the Mets were good, the Phillies were good. There's some other, the Cardinals are always good. Very, very competitive baseball, but you got to be a part of that. It's not like you were on the back then it would have been Houston, the team that was always struggling. You're a good team. You're in a great market. You get 40,000 people every night. This is a great career for you. I mean, you got to admit, this is a good time to be there.
Oh, no doubt. It was. I got the opportunity at the right time in the evolution of my career to play every day, and for an organization, and particularly a manager that understood what a catcher needed to do to help the pitching staff. It was a great environment for me to be in, and I think all of us. And it's one thing about playing for Tom Lasorda. There wasn't one day that we took the field that we didn't think we were going to win. Never intimidated by anybody. If you were going anywhere to play, we played a real tough series against the Mets in '88 to get to the World Series. And we had to beat them in Shea Stadium, one extra inning game to come back, and then we finished it off here in Game 7 in LA. But never did we take the field that we didn't have the confidence that we were going to go out there and do what we needed to do to win. At least play our game. Know that if we didn't get it done, which was never in Tommy Lasorda's vocabulary, trust me, if we didn't get it done, we were going to do it, putting our best foot forward, playing our game, and if another team jumped up and beat us, so be it.
Yeah. You mentioned that '88 series. I did find the picture from behind the plate here. One of the great moments in Dodger history, and you're obviously a part of it. Take us through the need for everybody to step up, and it was your turn, it was your time, and you hit one of the classic home runs that gets you to the World Series. But had the Mets beaten the Dodgers like 11 out of 12 times or something like that season? It was a really They had an advantage for a couple of years. They win it in 86. They're still a very good team in 87. They are in 88, but you beat them. That's the thing about that magic moment there in Dodger history.
They beat us 10 out of 11, and the 12th game got rained out. So they beat us 10 out of 11 back in New York for the last game. They got rained out. Last game they were playing them. So to play them in the World Series, in the National League Championship Series, we were definitely looked on as the underdogs, especially after losing Game 1 in the 9th inning. That how do you come back from that? People are saying, well, we came back from it. Everybody had big hits in that series. Everybody stepped up big. What Hershiser did on the mound, what Kirk Gibson did with getting big hits. And in that situation right there, we're down 4-2 in the 9th inning. John Shelby's leading off. Doc Gooden's throwing 100 miles an hour. Looks like he's got everything under control. John Shelby, he gets to an 0-2 count, and then he walks John Shelby from an 0-2 count to a 4-2 count, which is one of the most underrated baseball at-bats of that year that people just don't give enough credit to. It was a great at-bat by John Shelby to go to first base. So as I come up to the plate, I see that Keith Hernandez is really close to John Shelby, holding him tight. And there's a huge hole at first base. And all I was thinking was, look, if I can get a pitch that I can pull through this hole, we're going to have first and third, the tying run will be on. It's what we need as a team. And my swing just happened to match Doc Gooding missing his location a little bit. And you seen the picture where Gary Carter's had his glove on the outside corner. He wanted to pitch, and he moves it over a little to catch the pitch. The pitch gets a little bit too much of the plate. I get the bat head out in front, and you see by the trajectory of the ball, it's going to be in the air. It's a line drive, and it just happens to go over the right field wall. But it certainly wasn't by design. And I'm just fortunate to contribute something to what was a storybook season for us with the Dodgers.
Thank you for beating me to the question. I wanted to ask you, I said, it looks like Gary's set up to the outside. You're hitting the ball more middle, and you spanked it. I mean, that's one of those ones that that's a batting practice, but at 100 miles an hour, do you still remember the sting of that specific swing? Or
there was no sting. That ball was. I happened to get it right on the sweet spot, so you don't really feel it was a sweet spot, but I knew it had a chance. The weather was cold and it was getting rainy, and you never know how the ball's going to carry. But fortunately, it went out, and then Kirk Gibson comes up in extra innings and hits a home run that that we end up winning the game. I think the storyline to that is how we all contributed. That home run tied the game in the 9th inning, but there's so many things that happened along the way of Kirk Gibson's home run, Orel Hershiser coming out of the bullpen to throw the last out of that game was huge for us, because now it tied the series at 2-2 instead of being down 3-1. We were able to win the next day in a day game, and then brought it back to LA and won Game 7.
Yeah. Again, the improbable, right? As Vince Scully would say, the impossible.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. And everyone was really beat up. You were, right? And to go in the World Series, you don't even get to be on the field when Hershiser wins it. That's with Rick Dempsey, and we've had Rick on, and great moment in his career for obvious reasons. And but Kirk only had that one at bat, for crying out loud, in this series.
He did.
I mean, you limped into a World Series against the guys that looked like every one of them had been in the gym at Venice Beach every day.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt they had a big team. I had hurt my knee earlier in the year, and it was hurting me in the Mets series, but it just didn't do what it did in the World Series. So all of a sudden, I'm just sliding into second base, a harmless slide into second base, and this thing locks, and the cartilage flipped over, and there's no way to get it out. And unfortunately, after game 3 of the World Series, I can't play anymore, and that was it. So or Game 4, I should say. So a little disappointed, but not so much that it dulls the unbelievable feeling that that you have when you're contributing to a World Championship club. And Rick Dempsey was a great catcher, did a great job coming in, and we're proud of everybody who was on that team and how they contributed. And and that was that.
I mean, thank you for that. I appreciate it. I know Rick does as well, and everybody else that contributed to that. But um, how this little group of the little engine that could going against the Mets, who were odds-on favorites, and then the A's. I mean, a picture of McGuire here. You got Canseco, you got Carney Lansford, Ricky's on this team. Though you got Eckersley. I mean, there's no way that you should have been able to compete with those guys. What was it? We didn't care. That's not the right attitude. We didn't care who we played. We're going to give everything we got. And if you don't, watch out for us. Was there any portion of that in terms of how you strategized against both those rosters?
I think we took it as a chip on our shoulder, and we just felt that that we were being slighted for the talent we had on our team. And even though they had more marquee players, our team, the pieces fit in beautifully. And if you look at our pitching staff, and in particular how well our bullpen performed, and we felt we could play with anybody as long as our pitchers performed, and they did. And so there's ways to beat teams. These guys, they played good series. It wasn't like the Mets played a bad series and opened the door for us. We played great baseball and took it from them. And same with Oakland. You have so many things happening. Game one, when Kirk Gibson comes up and hits the storybook home run that wins us game one. That's something that, not that we would expect that, but we knew that we could play with anybody. I think it's that confidence that lets you go out there and just play your game, and we did. So we don't think it's a fluke that we beat the Mets. We don't think it's a fluke we beat Oakland. We just felt that at the time we played the best baseball and deserved it.
Yeah, getting the right hit at the right time. And I think as much as anything, the home run that you had against Gooden, I think it stunned them. There's no way that this group of Dodgers could beat us, and you did. And there's no way that Eckersley, who was the best in baseball for closing out a game, throws a mistake, or the scouting report, the backdoor slider on a 3-2, and Gibson knew it. I mean, it didn't look like it was a powerful swing. He had no legs, and he was so beat up that he just basically flicks it. You said he hooked it, or you tried to hook one, and it's almost like that's what he did, and it goes 370, and you stunned them for the rest of the series. That's kind of a way that someone might look at it, right? I mean, I'm not trying to put words.
Those are big emotional losses. There's no doubt, or wins. There's no doubt about that. Losses if you're on the other team. But I think the long and short of it is, we had confidence of what we were going to do. And if you break down Kirk Gibson's swing, it looks like it's all arm. But if you break it down to contact plus, just when the ball's leaving the bat, he's got a solid base. And it breaks down afterwards because of his knee, But he hit that ball with more force than I think people give him credit for. And it was a great swing he put on it. And it obviously set the tone, like I said, set the tone for that whole series. And
yeah, strong guy, very competitive, multi-athlete guy, right? Very good football player at Michigan State, and surprisingly strong. And then obviously from a competitive standpoint, he's one of those Tigers that you want to have. I want him in the bar fight on my side. You know what I mean? That type of,
yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
Without going any further on him, I would like you, if you wouldn't mind, mentioning the type of year that Hershiser said. I think we'd be doing baseball a disservice by breaking Drysdale's record and just finding the ability for him to. It couldn't get. Could it any better than that 88 season that Oral Hurt? Not just because of the World Championship, he was throwing BBs, and you got to be a part of that. It was a very historic year for him.
Oh, it was unbelievable. I think that what Oral did is something that's going to be tough for a lot of pitchers to beat. Not only there, but in the playoffs, what he did, and then coming out after, almost like Yamamoto did, coming out and finishing the game in Game 4 and against the Mets. But if you look at all the pieces, how they had to fit in for him to break Don Drysdale's record, which he really wasn't comfortable doing because he really respected Don. His last start of the season, he needs 10 innings. So what that says is, for us, we can't score. If we score, then there's no way that he can get 10 innings because for him to, if they tie at 1-1, he loses the record. He can still go 10 innings, but he loses the record. So we couldn't score. Now, we were trying to score. I mean, we're trying to score, obviously. But what are the chances? It's 0-0, and he goes into the pitch the bottom of the 10th inning, which he did not want to do. He told Tommy, he said, Tommy, no, I don't want to, it's Don's record. For me to do this, it would be, and Tommy pushed him out and said, no. He said, Don wants you to do this. You go out there and you pitch that last inning. And he did. It was just the way things had to fall into place for him to do it was magical. And the year he had is one for the ages. And I don't think you're going to see any team that wins a world championship and you look at what Kirk Gibson did, winning MVP with really stats that didn't reflect his contribution to our club, but he had a tremendous year. But he was so much more than that. And then Oral on the pitching side, those two guys set the tone for all of us who were more the role players to put us in position to win.
Yeah, and you're in the locker room with both. I know Kurt. I mentioned earlier, tough dude, and we're going to win. That's it. But I'd like to give you a little credit, Mike. Your job was to bring out the best in Oral, and you got to figure him out. I don't think you're a psychologist as much as you're our teammate, but part of your job was to bring out some great combinations of pitches that were going to put people off timing and make it hard for them to put the ball in play and get the base hit. They'll ground out to second before we give up anything else. What was your psychology like in terms of dealing with him? And you want him to be as calm as possible, or do you want to get in a fight with him right before the game? I mean, what made him a better competitor? And how did you deal with handling all of that?
Well, we talked about a pitcher having to harness your emotions, especially, a player, but especially a pitcher. If you're at the plate and you're squeezing the bat so hard because you know the weight of the situation, you're not going to put your best swing on the ball. As a pitcher, if you're trying to throw a ball too hard because you sense the gravity of the situation, you're not going to make your best pitch. Oral had that knack of keeping his focus, keep his intensity where it needed to be, much like we talked about Fernando, to be able to make a pitch. And after your pitcher makes a pitch, he can't control anything else. And I think he was a master at that. Pitch to pitch, had incredible focus, unbelievable memory, knew his game inside and out, which all had to do, as a catcher is just study it. What does he do? What makes him tick? What does he like to do? Talk to him before. But as far as going into a game, he was if he was nervous, he never showed it. I'm sure he had butterflies here and there, but he had that ability just to keep the game at the level it needed to be and keep his intensity where it needed to be. Not too much, which is a distraction. And if it's not enough, you're in trouble too.
Well, Mike, very interesting perspective there. And when he would miss, was he just missing less than he used to? Or, you know what I mean? Was he just more focused? When you call for low and away, you'd get low and away, but it wasn't perfect, but it was close enough to where it fooled the batter regardless. What was that combination like for you to be able to put the right pitch in the right place at the right, not perfect, but better than average, better than it has before, because the results were obviously vastly improved?
Well, Oral was easy to call a game for, and his unique talent was the movement on his fastball. He threw the ball hard, but the movement on it and the erratic movement, meaning sometimes it would sink a little more. He had that heavy sinker, and sometimes it would tail a little bit. So this was something that was really worked in his favor as far as missing bats and getting miss hits, getting easy ground balls, getting just easy outs. But then he had a curveball which was nasty. I mean, this thing was a big breaking ball. He could throw for a strike when he needed to. He came up with a changeup as his career advanced. But you just saw the ability and him understanding his talent. So when you're putting pitches together with Oral, It was a little different than Fernando because Fernando had more things that he could do. And Oral's game was very simple. It was based on his ability to get his sinker in a good zone, let the action on the ball get miss hits, use the curveball when you need a strikeout, but also understanding situations of the game and what maybe the scoreboard would dictate that you needed.
Well, certainly a magical season, and it ends with a World Series. Your second as a young player. Baseball been very, very good to you, hasn't it? I mean, they're a great time, and you're in Los Angeles. You're enjoying the city celebrating you, and you're not an Angelino, uh, uh, but you certainly became one for obvious reasons, and were received and welcomed, and you're just part of the great portion of Dodger history.
Well, I'm fortunate, Harper. I never take anything for granted that baseball's given me. I also know how hard I had to work to get to a certain level and maintain that, to have the opportunity to play for 13 seasons with the Dodgers. So I know it was a gift, and I don't take it for granted. I understand it, and that helped me a lot when I got into coaching and managing, to let players understand the tremendous opportunity they have and how important it's going to be for them to bring their game to the park every day and then look back on it and understand the great career hopefully they had.
In '88, you go till '92 as a Dodger. You're a 260 hitter lifetime. You're getting a hit every game. That's the way I look at it. You get 4 plate appearances. Your consistency, the weight that a catcher has in terms of how it beats up on your body a little bit more than, let's say, the left fielder. Not that it's easy at any position. Would you have wanted to play 14, 15, 17 more years? I'm saying, but I know there's a rotator cuff injury. You were with the Dodgers the whole time. Let's just celebrate the fact that you were a one-team guy, even though, yes, you signed with was it the Padres?
Padres.
How you signed with the Padres? What on earth?
Hey,
What happened there?
I just wanted to continue to try to play this game, and they gave me the best opportunity. But
No kidding.
I hurt my arm in spring training, and I played 13 seasons, and you could always say, "Gosh, what if you played 15 or 16? Would have been more? It would have been more enjoyable." I think you get to a certain level where you just physically feel, you can feel it, that you can't do the things you need to do to keep yourself at a level to play in the big leagues. I certainly reached that, and have no second guesses about it. I had a great career, tried my hardest in everything I did, and I was very blessed to play it as long as I did, especially with a torn rotator cuff, which I tore at age 24, which could be, at the time, was a death sentence for your baseball career. And fortunately, I had a great doctor, and Dr. Frank Jobe, a great physical therapist, and Pat Screener, who was with the Dodgers at that time, that gave me a path to rebuild the shoulder without doing intrusive surgery, which I was able to do and then play it at the level I needed to until I couldn't do it anymore.
Isn't it amazing? You're probably the 4th guy that we've had, and I had a personal experience when I was a kid with Frank Jobe, and thank God someone made as a contributor to the game made the effort to get him into the Hall. From a medical standpoint, how many times just go see Frank, right? Go see Curlin. How good those guys were at putting Rams, Kings, Dodgers, Angels, who am I missing? The Rams back on the field. And he certainly had something to do with your athletic career. I think there's a tip of the hat, right, to Frank and to all medical staff and the trainers for keeping guys out there.
Well, my career would have ended in 1983 if it wasn't for Dr. Jobe. And
right.
When I tore my rotator cuff, I knew something was obviously wrong with it. Went and saw him. They did an arthrogram. They didn't even have MRIs then. And they detected an undersurface tear in my rotator cuff, which he had been operating on. And I was the first person, and I remember Dr. Job telling me these words. He said, "Mike, he's there. I've operated on 6 exactly like this in the last 2 years." And he said, "None of the players are coming back from it." And he goes, "But I think that with rehabilitation, I think if we can get the blood flow where it needs to be, this undersurface will heal. It'll take a little bit of time, but it'll heal much better than if I try to go in and do surgery on it. That is not working on this type of tear." I said, "I'm all in." And I missed the rest of 1983 and came back and won the starting job in 1984 for the Dodgers. In 1985, make the playoffs. In 1988, won the World Series. So there's no doubt I feel blessed to have been around Dr. Job, who made a critical decision in my career path.
Mike, the early hours, getting there before everybody else gets there, the amount of little things that you've got to do consistently and over. There's part of rehab. It sucks. What was it like for you? It's god awful. Why are you going through this? But your love of the game and your desire to get back out on the field, I've got to do it Frank Job's way. That's what's going to be the best for me.
My day went from worrying about your swing and where your hands are and what's happening on the offensive side to studying film on a guy who maybe stole the base the night before that shouldn't have, to understand were you a little off? Did you rush? So my day went from that to going in, planning every exercise I had to do, making sure they were done properly. And as I said, we had a physical therapist named Pat Screener that was the best in the business that guided me through all this. And it took a long time for it to heal. But it healed, and that's the key thing. And I think
Mark,
Dr. Joe knew if he had to do some kind of surgery that it wasn't going to. So my day got pretty focused. As I started to see positive results, you start to get better range of motion. You start to feel the strength coming back in. I really didn't start to throw a baseball until November, and this happened in May. So I had enough time, which I knew it healed. Took me a while to get it going, and then I didn't miss a beat in spring training, and thank God that I had the opportunity to be around Dr. Job, who made a great call in what my career was.
Mike, as a catcher, your throwing arm is so important. I wanted to ask you, was it exactly 100% the same as it was before? What would you say the percentage was when you came back?
I would say my arm strength got to be about 95% it was before. Wow. But my technique, I became a better thrower because my technique became better.
Wow.
I had a lot of time to work on my technique, my transfer, things that I never really had, not being paid attention to them, but sometimes you don't need them as much because you have a strong throwing arm, which I had. So these became vital as to me being able to get the same time, the same accuracy on my throws, and I was able to do that even with a little less arm strength. But I still threw the ball hard enough. It just wasn't what it was when I was a little younger.
Very interesting.
And going through all of there's the pain factor, there's the time factor, there's the waiting factor. You're not really part of the team anymore. You're there, but no one wants to talk to you anymore because you're not. No one wants to get hurt, so that you're like the the kid whose hair is on fire. Nobody wants to be around you at times.
Right.
At times, not always, but does that make you a hungrier player when you come back? It was taken away from me. I value it even more, and I'm going to do everything I can to get back, get my position, and to stay there without getting hurt, and just reestablish my career.
Absolutely, I think that when something's not there anymore, I think you realize how important it is to you, and I think you respect it more. So my focus quickly shifted from, not worrying about, like I said, what my day was going to be baseball skill wise. It was I'm going in there to get healthy, and I worked very hard at off hours with Pat because he had to work with the whole team. We'd work it out and do our do our things maybe during the game a little bit, which, or we did it after a game where I came in early to get it done, depending on what his schedule was. That's what my day became, and um, I absolutely was on a mission to get back and play because it was, it was an injury that nobody was really having a lot of success coming back from, and I
Yeah.
wanted to prove that we could do it, and I was fortunate to do that.
How has that changed a similar diagnosis for other catchers? The fact that you were the success where Frank even told you we haven't seen success in this. For you to be that first guy and not be the guinea pig, but be the example now of if you do it the way that Mike Scioscia did it, your chances of getting back, especially to the same level or even a better level than you were at before for collegians or high school players, there is a success rate now.
Yes, Dr. Job even told me he did a presentation at the winter meetings to other doctors, and he wrote papers on the fact that these things could be rehabbed if it's a certain type of tear that I had, as opposed to going in and surgically changing them. And now, with a lot of the advancement in biologics, PRP, stem cell, I would have been the candidate that had PRP and stem cell, which would have promoted more healing quicker as opposed to surgery. But yeah, there's no doubt that there are no other catchers that had similar injuries that had the confidence to know if they worked hard, they can come back. And so being the first one, not that I'm taking credit for it, but I think it does let other people know that get injured like that you can come back from it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, your career goes on. There's so many different people that you get a chance to meet and visit with. Found a picture here with the First Lady, Nancy Reagan. She's tiny. I'm just saying she's a
Yes.
tiny lady. She's only slightly bigger than these kids that are
Yeah.
around. But that's another aspect of Dodger baseball is that, I mean, even Bob has told me on countless occasions, the celebrities that you get a chance to meet, the cross-pollination of athletes or musicians or actors and actresses or entertainers. And it's absolutely amazing. What was that like for you, being a kid from Philly who probably when growing up, you go, I don't want anything to do with that Dodgers stuff because I don't care if Frank Sinatra is in Lasorda's clubhouse or not. Well, now it's a part of your daily life. And how did you deal with that?
Well, a couple things. I mean, it was a great thrill, obviously, to catch a first pitch from Mrs. Reagan. I met President Reagan a number of times, but I think the long and short of it is, I think we had a good support group that kept us focused on playing baseball because it's easy to get out there and like I said, try too hard or get sucked into a lot of the things that are that could be distractions playing in LA. But the crowd was always positive in LA. It's not like Philly we talk about where maybe it's a little bit tough on the home team and visiting team. The crowd was always very supportive of us, and I think it was thrilling. You were excited to go out there and play at Dodger Stadium, no matter what was there, no matter who you were playing, and to get a chance to meet some of the celebrities is just part of it. But playing with Tom Lasorda, he did a great job of buffering a lot of them. He would take care of them. They'd been in his office, and you had all the A-list celebrities that would come out to the game, but they never really impacted us too much. We just went out there and played.
And I'm thinking also, Mike, they're there because you're winning. And if you're not winning, they're not going to be there. So it's kind of there's something for them to see. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack with Sammy and Dean and whoever, or if it's just some kid who's 12 and has never been to a game before and gets that first real understanding of the special MLB, the smell of the grass, the hot dog, the things that make baseball great. And they're there because you guys are good and you work very hard at your profession and you want to make it as clean and as enjoyable as it possibly can because the memories that you're making for people.
Absolutely. I think it started a long time ago. Started back in Brooklyn. The following of the Dodgers came out. As Bob said, the first came in 1958. Started with the success they had in the 60s, the 70s, and passing the baton to us in the 80s. That was all part of, I think, of what the atmosphere became was you were expected to play well or expected to win, and for the most part we did, and it drew the 40,000+ people a game, and drew the 56,000 people to playoff games,
Yeah.
and it was it was a great environment. But I think your point is right. It stems from playing well and winning, and the all the tradition and the predecessors that came on before we did. They played great baseball, and just like we like to think we played good baseball in our tenure and passed it on to the Dodgers and the fans. They did to us.
Well,
Hey, Mike, I have a question for you. Having been Ohtani's first major league manager,
Right.
are you surprised what you've seen?
No, he's capable of doing every bit that he's doing. As we're in the recruiting process, we were all amazed at not only his physical ability in the batter's box and on the mound. I mean, he's got great stuff, and I don't think you saw his best stuff yet. I think that if he can get another full year behind him, he'll pitch even better. But how athletic and how fast this guy is. This guy has world-class speed, and he brings it to the game, and we were amazed at that, watching that through spring training and in 2018, which was his first year with us with the Angels. He's absolutely capable of doing everything that he's done, and he's a tremendous young man. I think that the pressure that's on him for representing his country over here in the highest league in the world is something that he relishes, and he wraps his arm around, and he continues to play at an incredible level. He's something else.
Do you treat that aspect of it? He's from a different country, and there's a shoulder that is being a barrier for his country and in the U.S. and really the growth of the game of baseball, not on just this one guy, but certainly the focus is on portions of this one guy. Is there a fragility that you have in trying to make sure that you don't baby him too much and you're not too hard? You kind of have to find these Goldilocks moments of how to manage and how to work with every player. But was it a little bit different? Is this a unique situation, or was it just Shohei, go out there and play your best today? How did you approach that from a perspective with all these little parameters that I tried to mention there in a moment ago?
Yeah, I think Shohei came over. There was obviously a lot of attention that was going to be put on him. He had been a little banged up in Japan with his arm, and so we nursed that back, and we had him on a restricted schedule of when he could DH and when he could hit, as opposed to when he could start. And they had figured out that if he stays healthy, that he should be able to get 22 starts in a season. And he should be able to get, at that point, it was going to be maybe 350, 400 plate appearances. And that was just to break him in and let him get used to major leagues, what it was about. We weren't sure how much you could handle. Throwing a full bullpen and then DHing that day is something that he's shown he can handle, because he was DHing every day for the Dodgers, still doing all his work on the pitching side, whether it was pregame, his touch and feel, his bullpen session, whatever it would be. Pitching in a game and hitting, and then coming back the next day and being able to DH. So as his career has progressed, it's been obvious the workload that he can handle and stay productive. So with us, it was more it was already dictated. It was scripted when he could hit, when he could pitch. So in that way, it wasn't tough, because we had to follow a script for his health and for what the medical staff and our front office was. They were designing to try to keep him healthy and let him get used to playing in the major leagues every day. And then as they've taken those restrictions off, you've seen a guy that is just been incredible, particularly in the offensive side. It's something else.
Mike, you're explaining so many of these little parameters and details that are a part of any player, but with Shohei specifically, his originality as a player in terms of being a multi-dimensional athlete. When did the managerial aspect, I mean, you played until 92. You coached, you stuck around the game. I think there's a love of the game that you have, or at least I want to see if I can do something different. What was that like for you, the decision going from a player to maybe scouting, maybe coaching, maybe managerial? What was the progression for you? And what happened after you retired as a Dodger? I know you had 2 years of additional attempts to play, but when
Yes.
you start to think about, what's next in Mike Scioscia's life, how did that transpire with you?
Well, I was fortunate the Dodgers gave me an opportunity. And after I retired in 1994, they asked what would I like to do? What did I see myself doing? And I'm always been drawn to catching, and I thought that was be a good entry point for myself. So I took a position to be their minor league catching coordinator and work with a lot of the kids and try to get their careers along. And I was very fortunate to work with guys like Henry Blanco and Paul LaDuca and Ken Huckabee. A lot of guys eventually made it to the major leagues. So in that point, I was happy to get the opportunity. But as I started to work, and I worked 4.5 years in the minor leagues before I got to the major leagues. I got a chance to manage an instructional league, got a chance to manage in a fall league in Arizona. So putting all that together, I was really drawn to managing and had my opportunity to manage in 1999 in Albuquerque. And then I was put myself in a position to get hired by the Angels for the 2000 season.
Was that a natural fit for you because of the way that you quote unquote managed the game from behind the plate with each pitcher, knowing each guy that might be in the bullpen that comes out onto the field every day? Did that help prepare you for being able to do other aspects of the managerial aspect because you've been doing it for so long in your career? Was that an easy thing for you to be able to go from one to the next, from a player to a manager?
Yeah, I think from a player to a manager, as far as the strategy is not the big hurdle. I think it's setting the environment, understanding a player, understanding talent, understand what makes that certain player tick is where the challenge is as you start to want to create that environment of winning and have guys feel comfortable that if they pop out and bases loaded, they're not going to be on the bench for a week. That kind of patience has to be applied, and I think that's an art form that you develop as you get into managing. So I think that's the bigger task. As a catcher, you're more in tune with some things like pitch selection and evaluating pitchers than maybe a guy that hadn't caught. But if you look at Dusty Baker, you look at Lou Piniella, you look at Terry Francona, you look at so many great managers that are managing this game that were not catchers. They've certainly absorbed that part of it and have surpassed a lot of people in how they can evaluate pitchers. So just being a catcher doesn't ordain you to say you know the game so well that you're going to be a good manager. But it certainly gives you some insights into a key part of what our game of baseball is, and that's on the mound in a pitcher's ability, his pitch selection, things like that, because you've lived it your whole career.
Yeah, I give credit to Tony Romo from a football perspective. His last year, he got hurt in the preseason, and Dak Prescott was asked as a young rookie to come in and play for the Cowboys. And Romo was on the sideline, and he's holding an earpiece, and he's hearing every play that's being called in. And he's hearing the coaches call the play to our rookie quarterback. And then the rookie quarterback has the microphone turned off. But Tony Romo gets to hear everything else. And he gets to hear the coaches go, watch out for the blitz. Give the dump off to the right side. They're coming from the left side. Watch this. Be prepared for that. I'm thinking that your ability as a catcher to know certain key components of how the game is played helped build your resume to where I can also do other things. That's why I'm saying, to your credit, it's not the exclusive, but
Right.
you were for 16 years prior to the managerial aspect with the Angels, you were involved those day-to-day decisions. So I think it came naturally for you in a way where you excelled at it. That's
Yeah.
what
Well, Harper, I don't know if you can call it naturally. You got to work at it, and you got to acquire the tools to let you understand what's going on. So the tool might be the hammer to understand this nail's got to go in a piece of wood, and you understand that in evaluating a pitcher, evaluating a situation, evaluating the nuances you're talking about are important, and so you do pick those up, but I think the rubber meets the road of you being able to apply them. And this thing talking about Tony Romo listened to the coaches with Daxon. I'm sure there were times when he did exactly what the coaches were talking about. If this comes up, you have to do this and that. I think as a baseball player, as a catcher, there's that if-then scenario of we're trying to get this guy on a fastball inside, and you throw it inside, and he fouls it straight back and has a great cut at it. That you know what the then should be, and you make that adjustment.
Yeah.
And that comes with experience. And as I said, I mean, one of the first games I caught in the major leagues was with Don Sutton, who's a Hall of Fame pitcher. I'm 21 years old. Don Sutton's pitching in 1980 with the Dodgers. And I gained great confidence because of my ability to call a pitch off of what happened before and understanding that although it says we should do this with a hitter in this situation, I really feel we should do that. And in that game, it worked. And for the number of hitters that you made those adjustments with, and Don couldn't compliment me more on just saying, "Hey, what a great job you did. This is what you have to do." So that confidence has to build for every young player. But a lot of it is acquired, and you've got to work at it to make those decisions.
I got to ask, following up on that, were there any times as a 20, 23-year-old, somewhere in that early portion of your career, where you get ready to walk out there and a veteran just says, get back, just don't even bother, kid?
I think there were guys, didn't want to be bothered, and you knew that. And there wasn't really anything that you were going to give them outside of trying to calm them down, but they were already calm. They're just frustrated a little bit with themselves, and there's not much you just want them to relax. But I never had an issue with that. I think every time I went out to the mound, it was with meaning. And the time I went out to the mound, these guys knew that there was some insight that I just wanted to give them. Or sometimes they're just breathing too hard and sweating. I just want to give them a little bit of a break. So there were sometimes those too. But I never had anyone shoo me off the mound, no. And so I'm fortunate for that.
I've lived in Atlanta for 30 years now. There's a moment where Bobby Cox goes out to the mound. He goes to visit Glavine. Eddie Perez is in there, and the infield is coming in, and Bobby's been kind of scatterbrained all throughout the game. And he says to Glavine, he says, "I want you to put this guy on, and we're going to get the guy that's on deck, and we're going to throw him low and away, and we're going to do that." He goes, "Put the guy where the bases are loaded, Skip. I'm not putting anybody on right now." And Bobby says, "Jesus Christ, don't ever tell anybody that I even came out here. Just get this guy out." And he walks back in. And I think Glavine told that story during his Hall of Fame induction. And even Bobby just kind of caught himself going, "Yeah, that was one of those rare moments." There's got to be
I'll tell you what, Bobby Cox was as insightful as any person I've ever been around in my life. It still is, but he was so insightful of the nuances of the game and understanding it. And for that to happen to Bobby, that's unbelievable. But obviously,
it's one of those rare moments that, for obvious reasons, that it's funny because it's such a rare moment. But his success, obviously. Well, you got to have your own. What was your style? Did you have one? Did you want to be a player's manager, or were you a cerebral guy? Were you a sabermetrics guy? I mean, what made you special and very unique at what you did?
I don't think I've heard the word cerebral bantered around in my head, Bob, too much. But I think in my it's not so much my style. I think my style was playing baseball, and I wanted guys to feel that environment that they could achieve in. That one mistake wasn't going to put them on the bench for a week. That understand this game is tough, but you need to apply yourself and you need to bring your talent every day. And I think coming up in the Dodger organization, which had started when you had, Maury Wills, and you had guys in the 60s that ran the bases aggressively, and Tommy Davis, all these guys could run. They didn't hit a lot of home runs, but they scored the runs they needed with a great pitching staff. I certainly wanted to bring that offensive focus to the Angels of saying, look, we can create better offensive situations by running the bases aggressively. Much easier to score a run with first and third one out than it is from first and second with one out. If you can stretch that single into a double with nobody out, there's a better chance of us getting you around to score. So all that was all part of what we learned in the Dodger organization, understand the importance of a productive out. So on the offensive side, there was that aggressiveness that we had always played with when I was playing with the Dodgers that you wanted to bring to the Angels. And I think that assimilated itself very well. These guys really took to that. And then obviously the importance of defense, starting with the pitching and starting with the pitcher stuff, his game planning, him executing pitches was going to be key to any foundation that we had to be successful. And then it rolls over to the defensive component and understanding that defense isn't really important until the ball's hit. Well, the ball's going to be hit, and we need to be in position to make plays. We need to have an understanding of what we need to do to pinch runners. The cutoff and relays need to be effective and efficient. All this goes into where you want to end up as a championship caliber club, and we brought that over in the spring of 2000, and I think it all came from the history that I had of playing through the Dodger organization.
Hey, Harper, asked me the question, what did I think of his managing? Ask me that question.
There are a lot of things that I need to ask you, Bob, but one of it is, what do you think about Mike Scioscia and his management?
I can tell you this. He was a great manager, but he did not put up with bullshit players. And I will not name them, but I can think of at least 3 that were really good players that he got rid of. They didn't stay around there too long.
Well, I tell you what, I can't pat myself on the back because I wasn't the GM, and the GM makes the personnel decisions. And I think as a manager, you pride yourself that no matter who the player is, and you get them on the field, you can make them fit into your system, fit into what you want to do. And some guys do, and then some guys just don't cross that bridge that you need to be a team player and be the type player that's going to help bring you a championship. And I think that's true in any organization at any level.
Mike, there's 100 questions I'd love to ask you about, the difference between managing and stuff. When I played football, I always wanted to have a pair of gloves, even though I was a long snapper and I never needed them. I'd have them in my back pocket when we went out for warmups, so that when we went back in before the game began and they had the national anthem, we were coming out of the tunnel to get ready to play in a game. I could give the gloves away to a kid. Yeah. Or some sweatbands or something. There's a special connectivity that you have between the game and the fan. The celebrities that you had as a Dodger, when you managed, were there certain people that you wanted to be around that the players would like? Were there certain events, like a guy's birthday, that you would want to celebrate? Would you think about things like that? What can I do a week from now that needs to be done that will help everybody in this organization? There's a different outside the box thinking that has nothing to do with the X's and O's of the game, but it has to do with the ability to connect all of it and make the game better. Did that cross your mind at all ever when you were, when you were basically as a manager, when you were on the steps there running this ball club?
Yeah, I think it started with the Dodgers because I think it actually starts from home, from your upbringing of understanding that you're not the center of the universe. I think the understanding would be, as we got into the Dodgers, there's so many guys that make an organization go. And Bob's very aware of this. Knowing all your clubhouse attendants, all the clubbies, when their birthday is, say happy birthday to them. Joke with them a little bit about their birthday. Front office people, the media relations people that come through. Get to know them as people. Treat them with respect that they deserve. And that starts there. So as a manager, you can be easily consumed with your day and what you need to do. And there's no doubt that there are some days that's your whole focus. You got so many things on your plate. You got to clean some stuff up. You got to move some stuff around. You have to have some tough conversations with guys. This is all part of it. But as you understand being around, and especially after the game, coming out and just signing one autograph for one person, how it can be life changing. Not in a way like a bolt of lightning and oh my God, I see the light. But life changing is the self esteem of a kid to say, look, I went up and asked the guy for his autograph, and he not only signed it, he asked my name, he put on it, and I hope that the ones you signed, these kids will be looking at now where I haven't managed. I started managing in 2000, so you're 25 years later. They say, yeah, this is an autograph I got from Mike in 2002 when they won the World Series, and I went up and just asked him, and he signed it to Steve or whatever the name is.
Yeah.
That's important. Flipping a little baseball to a kid, this is something that these kids are going to carry their whole lives, and that's the bigger picture about what baseball brings. And as I talk about a tunnel vision of trying to make yourself as good as you can be as a player, that peripheral interaction that you have that can change people's lives is important. And to this day, I still put a box of baseball in my car, in my trunk, as I'm driving around. And if someone would recognize me or say, "Oh my God, my dad's your biggest fan," and he's been under the weather a little bit now, and I've got no way to touch these people unless I can just sign something for them. I say, "Hey, hang on for a second." I go to my car, get a ball, sign it to them, give it to them with no expectations, and just say, "Look, tell your dad we're praying for him, and thank him for being such a great supporter of us over the years." And it's simple things like that.
Yep.
That are so impactful that I think that hopefully every player that's had the privilege of doing what I've done and the privilege I've had to have a great playing career and then having the opportunity to manage as long as I did would do.
As Dave Baker said to me once many years ago, for all you've done for the game, for all that you will do for the game, thank you. And so I would say that for just having a box of baseballs in the back of your car, so you can do simple things like that. It's amazing. Thank you, Mike, for that. Great portion of this, and what the game can be so simple yet so complex.
Yeah.
And when you break it down, you can make somebody's day, or you can ruin their experience for baseball. Thank you for choosing the high road on all of that. Was there anything special about the 2000 season going into it where you kind of had to pinch yourself and look around with your coaches and your general manager and maybe even the owner of the team going, we're going to be pretty good this year?
2002 was the year, but coming to 2000, I could not. We would sit and say, how could this team not have made the playoffs with the talent that was on it? You go around and you look at Garrett Anderson and Darren Erstad, Troy Gloss, and Gary DiSarcina, and Mo Vaughn was on the team there our first year too, and Tim Salmon, and just the whole team. How impressive it was. You had Chuck Finley, and you had so many guys. Troy Percival. You're looking and going, I know they came close a couple years, but how have they not crossed that finish line? And although it took us a couple years to get going, and a couple other tweaks to what our team was, in 2002, we had a great feeling in spring training that this was the team had progressed from the last couple of years, progressed to where we felt we were championship caliber in 2000. We just ran out of gas. But we felt that, we're going to be in this thing the whole way. And hopefully we get the opportunity because these players deserve it. And we won 99 games that year, got in the playoffs, and just played great baseball to win the World Series.
Yeah, so it wasn't just you got lucky or hot at a specific area. You mentioned all these names, and those are recognizable ones, the Andersons, the Erstads, Salmon, everybody that was a part of that. You go against Dusty Baker in the World Series, and there's a shake of the hands at the plate. And I think there was some media thing, but I know Dusty wants to beat you, and you want to beat him. You shake hands and you look good, but more as much as we experience together as teammates and players and all that kind of stuff. Um, this is competitive baseball, and you want to beat him as badly as he wants to beat you. So after that's done, what was there's one thing about the series that, oh man, I didn't expect this to happen. I mean, was there any moment where you really did have to outmanage him or outtink what the Giants were wanting to put together on their side?
I don't know if there was out thinking, but you from the moves you make from your end of it, I think our staff was very prepared. We made things that we need to do from the pitching end and also from the hitting end. Dusty and I, we still remain close. I still keep in touch with him, and he's an incredible baseball man. I had a great playing career, great managerial career. He'll be in the Hall of Fame. But uh, you're right about the thing about baseball is it could be your brother, it could be your twin brother who's managing the other team, and you want to kick his butt. You want to win. You don't want to just say, okay, we're going to play while we're here. No, you want to win.
Yeah.
That's why I felt with Dusty, and he felt the same way. And these guys, an incredible team. And we'd already we beat the Yankees in the first round, which was the Yankees were still had their dynasty. I mean, they were, they had their team that had won the World Series, and they had just lost on the ninth inning the year before against Arizona. So we're picking up off of that. We played in the first round, and we knocked them out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Play the Twins that had an exceptional team with Torrey Hunter and Eddie.
Do me a favor, Mike. Mike, I'm interrupting you, please. What's it like playoff baseball in Yankee Stadium versus? Because here's the way I look at it: all the girlfriends and the kids that go to the games during the regular season. We're going to the playoffs. Me and my buddies, and it's mostly a male audience. And I'm not saying that to be disrespectful or disingenuous to the female, but it's a different crowd in playoff Yankee Stadium. What was that like?
Well, to be honest with you. You know that the intensity is there even during the regular season, and it's tough because as a manager you have such tunnel vision during the game. You don't really hear the crowd too much, but I think you have a good point that it's a little different when you get in the playoffs. The playoff intensity in Yankee Stadium, playoff intensity back east is second to none. I think you saw some of that out in Los Angeles too. This playoff intensity for this crowd was as lively as I've ever seen it out here at Dodger Stadium. But Yankee Stadium is a different animal. We played in the old Yankee Stadium, which it's got you got the ghost of Babe Ruth, and you got all these things that happened there. So we played it at the old Yankee Stadium, and our guys were ready for it. We played our game. We played great. The fans were obviously loud. Our guys played great baseball, didn't make it a distraction, and we came out on top.
Yeah, I mean that to me that there's a certain satisfaction of beating an organization like Boston, or if you were playing against the Dodgers, or obviously the Yankees. There's it's a different win. It's a better win. Not that beating the Twins isn't important, or beating the A's or anybody. I'm just saying. First and foremost, congratulations. Being a Yankee killer is a special thing. It doesn't happen very often.
Well,
hey, Mike, I got a question for you.
Was it,
and be honest, was it a thrill for you to throw out the ball at the World Series?
Yeah, I had a good time.
Good.
I never, I got the opportunity last week to throw out the baseball at Dodger Stadium. Actually, for the playoff game, it wasn't the World Series. It was the NLCS.
Phillies?
Yeah. What a thrill. I never thought it would be, but I was out there with Steve Sachs, and we got an opportunity to throw the first pitch out. It was a lot of fun. And just being around that environment, that's what I'm saying. That the Dodger Stadium environment was intense also, but maybe it gained some ground. Not quite like what it is at Yankee Stadium, but it gained some ground. And I think, to be part of that was a lot of fun.
Mike also did the video when they retired Fernando's number, which I thought was terrific. I've seen that 50 times. Yes. I love watching that.
Yeah, Fernando, I got an opportunity to do a number of things. I got a chance to speak when they honored Fernando by retiring his number. and putting his number up on the on the Wall of Fame. And I got a chance that was a little more somber, but got a chance to memorialize Fernando at his funeral, and I was one of the few people that they asked to say a couple words, and it meant a lot to me to be asked. First of all, secondly, it made me feel good to be able to share some of the sides of Fernando that maybe some people didn't see. And the third, I really got to know our connection with Fernando was real, because as we came home that night, and my wife Ann was putting on the Disney Channel for our grandkids that were coming over, every one of our stations on Apple TV were somehow in Spanish. And she said, I don't know how this happened because I never touched anything. And it was working this morning when they were here. And I come back and this is all in Spanish. I said, honey, I told you Fernando was a prankster. I told you. I said, he just changed all these stations into Spanish. I know it. And I laughed. I said a little prayer for him, and it felt a great connection that, I really believe he did something like that, because how else would something like that happen, So, it's just it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling to, like I said, to be able to say some words about Fernando in a number of areas. And it's, his legacy is real, and it's an honor to have been asked to do a couple things for him.
It's interesting, Mike. You conjured up a memory that I had years ago. When I was a kid, I heard Pete Townsend, the rock musician for The Who, the guitarist. When Jimi Hendrix died, people asked Pete, well, what do you think about this great musician? Pete, tell us what you think. And Pete got really upset, and he goes, you're looking at this from like an entertainment perspective, and this is just some guy. Jimmy was my friend. Mm-hmm. We were kind of like family, so you need to back off a little bit. And Pete got a little more aggressive than what I'm sharing right now. But, he was your teammate, but he was your friend. He's like a member of your family for, 10, 15 years. And you guys ate dinner together, and you had maybe you didn't every day, but you hung out. And so there's a different way that you look at and value that relationship that you had with him. And the fact that you got a chance to share some things that people didn't know about the man that were of value to you. Congratulations. What a great honor for you to be a part of that.
It was. I think that humanity side of what we do is sometimes gets lost in the shuffle. Not for the players, because as you spend so much time off the field with your teammates than you do actually playing, when you think about it. And to be friends with these guys, and not only a guy like Fernando, but I've been privileged and blessed to stay in touch with guys and be still friends with guys that I played with in 1976 in rookie ball and all through my minor league career. And I think that, that bond that you have, that you've played baseball, that bond you have, that you've competed with a guy, it might be a minor league championship you won. That's lifelong. And when you do it at a level that Fernando did it, or Hershiser, or Mickey Hatcher, or all Rick Dempsey, all the guys that Dusty Baker still keep in touch with in this game, it even has more meaning. So I just feel really fortunate, really blessed that I've met so many great people in this game, and had an opportunity to get to know them as a person, as well as their talent on the field.
It's interesting, because part of the reason we put this show together is because Bob's relationship with so many folks. Whether somebody like Bob or yourself, Mike, with a group of guys, someone needs to be the glue to keep everybody together. Because men don't naturally.
Harper, I walked into Starbucks. This must be 6 or 7 years ago, and I will never, being a catcher whack job, right? I walked into Starbucks when it used to be up there on Lindero. It's not before it was the drive-through. And I walk in, and I see two guys sitting having a cup of coffee, and I went over and joined them, and there's about 50 years of Major League catching sitting at that table. It's Rick Dempsey and Mike having coffee. I felt like I won the lottery. I mean,
yeah, and I paid for the coffee too.
yeah.
I think that's the thing now that I've taken a step back. It's been 7 years since I managed, and I've been connected with baseball, do some things, that I enjoy doing for USA Baseball, and so you stay connected. But the human side of the fan has really come to light, because whether I'm Bob saying at Starbucks, or you go shopping, food shopping, the number of people that just at first say, "Hey, we're glad you were, thanks for playing," and how was this. Then it evolves as you keep going back and back to, "Well, how's your day going, Mike?" "Well, I'm going fine. How are you doing?" It becomes that humanity that is so important, and baseball's brought me all that. Just and it's something I don't take for granted. And even though it was Bob who came over, I didn't know this guy from anybody, but getting to know him, I think there's a litmus test you can give. If Bob doesn't know you, you're not worth anything. Trust me, because Bob knows everybody.
Let me take it a step further. I go to Gelson's every morning for coffee down here at Gelson's. And all the girls know they say, "Bob, do you know the girls in the bakery, Mike Scioscia comes in here." And this just tells you the little guy, Casey said, take care of the little guy. Mike Scioscia is the nicest guy to all of us. Oh, he's so nice to us, blah, 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 blah. See, now Mike doesn't, he's just being Mike. But see how he affects the girls behind the counter at the bakery. That's what I'm saying. And they said the same thing about Vinny. Vinny used to go in there. And they said, Vinny knew our name. They couldn't believe it. Vinny was so sweet.
Vinny was a great human being. But when you say bakery, you better believe I'm going to be nice.
No, I know. Isn't that a great bakery at Gelson's?
Oh, it's unbelievable. They got the best there. They got the best stuff. Victor Bennis, they got all the best stuff out there. It's impressive.
Well, the ability to connect the dots with former teammates or friends. I don't know this, Mike, but I think with your success, with your World Series championships, with all that, it'd be very easy for you to be a recluse and just say, be evasive. To be the exact opposite, being approachable, and to be a person when you gather with friends that there's always room for one more at the table. You know what I mean? And make it inclusive as opposed to the exact opposite. That's some people don't handle that very well. I'm glad that you are contributing in a way that you know what, I have a lot to give, and I'd like to do so.
I love giving it back, and I think it's a product of my upbringing back in Philadelphia, where the sense of community was incredible in your neighborhoods, in our neighborhood, to the bigger picture of guys, as far as baseball goes, guys like Sandy Koufax and Roy Campanella and Johnny Roseboro, Del Crandall, and Pee Wee Reese and Carl Erskine and Duke Snyder. I can go down the litany of players that came through spring training, and it was a simple thing like, "Hey man, you're looking pretty good," or "Hey, good job," with that good swing, that just lift you up a little bit, that help you to play in this tough game in the best league in the world.
Yeah, I'm sure it happened to you, but now on the Circle of Life thing, now that you're older, you get a chance to share with a rookie or a young kid, and you say, "Hey, Fred," or whatever your name is, or Harper LaBelle, I like the way you're swinging. And the Harper LaBelle goes, "Mike Scioscia knows my name? Are you kidding me?" And that sticks with you when Sandy Koufax walks up to you and says, "Hey, Mike, how's it going, bud?" You know what I mean? You pitch yourself, and then you go tell your fight, Sandy Koufax, "Are you kidding me?" Don Drysdale's right there. Roy Campanella, all these guys that you made. It's such a cool part of the way the history of the game just keeps flowing in the right way. The right way.
Yes, true story. You brought up Vince Scully, Bob. My first year, I'm 18 years old in Dodgertown, and we had a beautiful dining hall, and you couldn't wear shorts, and it was all linen tablecloths, and you would go in, and they had the best food you could imagine. They took care of us. So I'm walking up to the dining hall, and coming out of the dining hall is Vince Scully. And it's just, he's walking down the path and I'm walking down the path. I'm going in and he's going out. And so I said, I was about to say, "Hi, Mr. Scully," and as he stops, he goes, "Mike, glad to have you with us. Glad you signed with the Dodgers. Good luck. You had a good year last year. I saw in Bellingham. Look forward to seeing you play up here." And I say, "Oh, thank you, Mr. Scully." And he stopped me. He goes, "Please call me Vin," and walks. And you don't think that put me on cloud nine as an 18-year-old? I called my parents that night. I told them what happened, and they couldn't believe it. So as I'm managing, not that I'm any big deal, but as I'm managing the Angels in a managing position, and you go down to see the minor leaguers, any opportunity I have to talk to a minor leaguer, to talk to a minor league shortstop about, "Hey, that backhand looks good. Stay with it. Keep going." Or a pitcher saying, "You got a great arm. You got a great arm, man. Let's just keep fine tuning it. Get that third pitch you need to be a starter. Keep working on it." And I love what I saw. Little things like that are so important to the evolution of a young baseball player. I think that gets lost in the shuffle a little bit in the era of analytics, because this game isn't all about all you do is apply analytics and you get the best out of a player. Not at all. It's a combination of things that you need. And that confidence and self-esteem that I played under with Tommy Lasorda. Now, Tommy would chew you out, but he also knew the importance of making you feel every bit as much of the best player in the league as you could. He would make me feel like I was Johnny Bench, and I was nowhere near the talent of Johnny Bench, but he made me feel that as he would talk to you, and you went out there and you just felt like you were going to achieve and do whatever you needed to do. So that is a critical part of, as we talk about development of major players and development of people, is to understand that human element, that human side.
Interesting you bring that up. I've said this before, and Bob's probably heard it many times. For me, and again, my football exclusive side, it may be a little bit different, but the gist is the same. A coach could yell at me and say anything he wanted to if I knew he cared about me and he wanted me to be successful. I put it this way: if he loved me, he earned the right to chew me out. Mm-hmm. Because I knew what he wanted from me, and I was okay with it in a different way than if I didn't know a coach like me and then he chewed me out. That's a relationship thing. Your mom and dad yell at you, but if you don't have your room clean enough times and someone's coming over, you're going to get it. You might get a switch, if you know what I mean. If you don't pick the right switch, and if it's not big enough, you're going to get another one. I'm just saying there's a discipline factor involved with that. You got to play well, but I'm not saying it's okay to chew anybody out, but I am saying that if somebody does, and I know behind me that it's for my empowerment, it's to make me better. I don't like it, but I approve of it in a different way. Is there any truth to that with you, Mike?
Absolutely. I think that's a relationship you need to build with a player to understand. I'm going to tell you, you don't tell him, but you're going to give him 90% positive feedback. But there's 10% of the time where you're going to say, "Hey, man, let's go." If it's lack of focus, I don't know what happened, but that's not a throw that I've ever seen you make. So let's tighten it up. Let's get your head back in the game and let's play baseball. And I think that if you're doing it under those things where he knows that you're trying to help him, trying to refocus him, then it carries a lot of weight. As if you're throwing your arms in the air and start yelling, "What the hell's wrong with you?" That's not going to get it done. So you talk about you being a long snapper, right? Okay. So people aren't going to notice you until you mess up, right?
Absolutely.
So when you talk about a relief pitcher coming in the game as good as Troy Percival was for us, or good as a Frankie Rodriguez, the tendency is to take him for granted. Or as good of a shortstop as Gary DiSarcino or David Eckstein was for us. They make that throw. David Eckstein make that little throw, hit a guy in the chest every time. First baseman in the chest every time. And if it was a little bit off and he short hopped it and we didn't pick it, people would notice and say, "Well, what's wrong with him? He can't do this."
Yeah.
On a play that you've got to make 20 out of 20 times, you make it 19 out of 20, someone's going to notice. So you're long snapping, and you don't hit the guy in wherever the numbers or wherever you're going to hit your punter or the holder. You got to hit him. The pressure's on to hit him 10 out of 10 times. So you hit him 9 out of 10 times. How does that coach react? Does that coach jump on you and say, "What is wrong with you?" Or is he saying, "Hey, man, let's go. I've seen you make that snap. Let's get back into it." Because you're going to have to make another snap maybe another 6 minutes later. And I think that's the important part of how you build relationships and how you coach people and make kids better and make players better, is to understand that human element, that there are times when you have to tighten guys up, but there's a way to do it. And there's a way that it's going to have an impact on him to make him a better player. So he doesn't feel he's playing with a sword over his head. And you make that one bad snap out of 10, and you feel like if you make one more bad snap, you're out of here. You're never going to make another good snap. And I don't think that's what you want to do as you're mentoring kids, mentoring players. You've got to have them feel to play free, to empower themselves that the game's not perfect. But if there is a little bump in the road, I'm getting back on that bike and I'm going to ride it hard. And that's a big part of it. And some guys don't see it that way. I know that.
Yeah. I need to ask before we go. I want to be respectful of your time, Mike. You've been more than generous with it. Thank you. I tease now and say that there's a school that every coach and manager in football, basketball, they all go to now because they're as unemotional as you can get. Billy Martin used to, arms flailing and fingers in the face, and he and Reggie, as Bob knows, they were this close to having someone get seriously hurt. Now it's all homogenized, if you will. But did you ever go out there to go rattle the third base umpire just to get your team going and just get yourself kicked out of a game because you wanted to see someone have some spark that you didn't need to? I would hear that Earl Weaver used to do stuff like that all the time. Tommy would go out and kick the first over. Did any of that ever cross your mind, or were you too
forget I played for Tommy Lasorda, so I know what emotion is. I might not have started that way, but it certainly ended. There are times you go out in the field to back up a player that the player was wrong, and the umpire might have got it right, but it's close. But this player feels like his world just ended because he thinks this guy, really stuck it to him. So you go out there to support the player, and sometimes umpires push the wrong button, and you're like, "Wait a minute, really?" And now they're getting under your skin as much as they did the players, to where you end up getting thrown out of the game, and you're happy to do it because now you're upset that they're upset with you as much as they are as your player was. And that's sometimes it takes it. But I never went out in the field to just get, thrown out. But I do think the way you carry yourself in the dugout has a lot of importance. And I think it's got to be positive. It's okay to react positively to a play, like, okay, good. But as we just talked about, a shortstop that maybe doesn't make this one play that he should make, it's probably the only time all year he's not going to make it, and it might be a key situation. For you to start throwing your arms up and start yelling and start, showing up your player is not the way you're going to get to that result you want to be. And you want to get the result where these guys, like I said, play free. They know that the game's not going to be perfect, but they're going to make more plays than not if they don't play with that tension in their body of oh my gosh, if I make a mistake, I'm out of here. And you never want a player to feel that, to get into that dark place. And so certainly, I think what you're talking about trying to motivate a team, motivate players, it might have been getting thrown out of the game, but it was never my intent to go out and get thrown out of the game. But I did know after the first couple steps who the umpire was, and I got about an 80% chance to get thrown out of this game by the time this argument's done, and you just got to go with it.
Yeah. There's sometimes they have a quick hook. It doesn't matter what you say, they're going to throw you out just for arguing with them. it's a different group. Every ball player I know has a 4-letter word in their vocabulary, and it's umpire, because everyone's different and it changes all the time.
That's
But
right.
the fact that you're willing to go out there and fight for your guys is the admirable part of. I think they respect that and they appreciate it in a way that they know that you got their back. Yeah, it was a bad play, a throwing error, ball strike discrepancy. It doesn't matter what it is. If you were going to be commissioner for a day, Mike, is there any portion of the game that you would like to see changed or improved? That's old school, that the technology and the new school ways of doing things, the pitch clock, the strike zone, the replay. The game is becoming more technology centered in a way. Is that good for the game, or is that something that you think that may take away from its historical uniqueness as a sport?
I think it's reactionary to the need of seeing so much weight on certain calls during a game that they want to get them right, and that's why they put replay in. And that's moved over to balls and strikes now, where when guys are throwing 100 miles an hour, it's tough for an umpire to see a ball that's maybe 2 inches off the zone and make an accurate call. So that's going to be a reaction to that. The time of the game issue and the way they attacked it, I wasn't a real fan of, because I don't like artificially changing some strategy of saying that now a pitcher has to pitch to 3 hitters coming in for the sole reason of saving time. A pitcher can only throw the first base twice, and if he throws a third time, then it's a balk if the guy is safe. I don't like that. I would not have messed with the pace of the game and things that were happening there. There's a way to get. I like the pitch clock because it doesn't address the pace. But the one thing that's the white elephant in the room is, and it pays everybody's salary, so it's tough, but the commercial time in between innings has grown so much from when even I was managing early, and not all of it's sold the way it is on the local level. So where you have maybe 2 hours and 2 minutes, 2 minutes seems like 2 hours sometimes. 2 minutes and 5 seconds in between. And for playoffs, it's 3 minutes, and it was like 3.5 minutes or 3:45 between innings. That's adding an extra amount of time a game, probably up to 9 or 10 minutes just in commercial time into the length of the game. So getting the dead time is great with the pitch clock. I would work on between innings to get probably more contemporary on how we get our commercial time on there. Like if you watch golf and they say playing through, and they'll keep the golf on and then have a commercial come up. You can do a lot of that in the baseball. And many times we had to wait for out of the commercial break, had to stand there for umpires and wait another 20 seconds to have it started. So there are things there I would change. And the last rule that I would change, that I think is a definite competitive balance issue, is the Ohtani rule. I love Shohei Ohtani. But when he pitches and you take him out of the game, you can have him hit. When he pitches and take him out of the game, I don't know how they came to the conclusion that we'll let him become a DH. Well, I don't get that. When any other player comes out of the game, a center fielder gets tired and gets out of the game, you can't make him a DH.
He's out of the game.
He's out of the game.
Yeah.
I think it should apply to pitchers also. And they only want to Shohei. They did it to keep Shohei's bat there, but it's a great advantage for the Dodgers to be able to do this. And if he starts as a pitcher and he's hitting and he runs out of pitches like he did when he was trying to get staged up and he goes 3 innings, well, he's only getting maybe 1 or 2, maybe 2 at bats. So be it. That's the risk you take by putting him in that position. So I think that if he's going to pitch and he's going to become a starter, then when he comes out of the game, unless he goes and plays another defensive position, he's out of the game. And I'd like to see that rule adjusted.
Hey, Mike, what about runners on second base in extra innings?
I don't like it. I don't like it for a number of reasons. I think it's the vast majority of games where, even before you put a runner on second base, were concluded after 2 innings anyway of extra innings. Sometimes you had the 18-inning game like you did, in the playoffs. That's going to be part of it. So I wouldn't. I'm not a fan of that. I think it might come to where you play like the 13th inning and nothing's happening, and then you can start to say, look, at after the 14th inning or 13th inning, whatever it be, we'll start with the guy on second base to try to get a decisive run in that game. But to start out like that after 9 innings, I don't like it.
Mike, what your involvement with USA Baseball? What's the future of the game look like? Obviously, more international players. You're seeing them at different development stages from years ago, where there were some really good players, but now there's more. There's more American players that are playing better. They have to be, but there's also more international born. Um, uh, Talk a little bit, if you would, about not just Olympic style baseball, but just the way the game has grown and how that has affected the major leagues.
Well, the game and the talent level has continued to increase on a worldwide basis, and I think even in the United States, these kids are so good, so young now than they have been at any time any time in our country's history. So they're rapidly advancing. But if you look at Japan, you look at Taiwan, you look at Korea, obviously Latin American countries, Dominican Republic, Mexico, Venezuela, uh, kids that come up from Puerto Rico. These kids have always been talented and are still very talented. There's an immense amount of talent in Cuba. Um, so, like, where does this go with USA Baseball? I can only say that the young talent in USA Baseball, and they Rick and Dave Exide just took a team over to Taiwan and won the 18 and under championship gold medal against some incredible teams from Japan, from Taiwan, from the Western Hemisphere. Uh, so and these kids performed very well. So I think you're seeing level of talent rise everywhere. Where it ends up, I don't know, but I can only tell you that the level of baseball played is incredible in these countries we talked about. And it's equally as impressive when you look at the United States, California, Texas, Florida, the real just sunbelt of the pipeline into professional baseball. These kids are tremendously talented.
They're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger. There's more of them. It should be more competitive. Um, in so many different ways, and it is. You're seeing long ball, though. Everybody thinks that in football, if I get a sack, I'm going to get paid. So they just want to get sacks, and they don't play against the run very well. Kids are starting to want to just swing for the fences and not hit doubles off the wall or a single into left center that brings in 2 runs. How has that changed the game in your mind's eye?
Well, it's different now because kids that are 10, 11, 12 years old now and are pitching just chase velocity. They just want to try to throw the ball hard, and they're missing that level of early exposure to the art of pitching, and that sets them behind. They might throw the ball hard, which is causing a lot of injuries and growth plates and elbows in kids when they start to get to 15, 16, 17 years old that shouldn't be there. Plus, they've missed the schooling on the art of pitching.
Yeah.
On the offensive side, scouts look at the potential of a hitter of hitting the ball hard, your exit velocity off the bat. Exit velocity isn't always generated from just swinging hard, and rarely is it. It's a timing, it's a coordination. It's like a golf swing. When you have a perfect golf swing and you square it up, the ball goes further. Same thing with a baseball swing.
Mhm.
So these guys are maybe trying to impress at showcases with a certain talent that is might get them exposure, probably will get them more exposure, but it isn't always going to be the driving force in a championship design team when you've got 9 guys that can hit home runs. But as you said about the defensive lineman that's chasing the sack and missing the run, well, these guys that can hit home runs can be shut down, as we've seen some teams get shut down in playoffs with good pitching because they're one-dimensional. If they don't hit the ball out of the park, they're not gonna have success.
Yeah, so true. And you mentioned perfect swing in golf, but Bob and I, neither of us have perfect swing in golf, and so
I know
we stay
that.
away from it.
I
Yeah,
don't know. I know Bob. I know how it is. He lives right near North Ranch, but I don't think
yeah.
they let him on the course.
No, he finds all the golf balls and makes some extra cash on the side by selling the Pro V1s. He gets
Exactly.
$3-4 a piece off of those things.
Oh, they
You
are.
know,
If
it's
they
amazing.
don't float, I don't want them. So
Yeah.
you have to find somebody else, Bob.
Well, Bob, I'm so grateful that you were able to bring a all-star, a manager of the year who's won it 2 times. He is a World Series champion 3 times. A guy that loves the game, has devoted his life to it in so many great ways. He's a champion in more ways than one. Final words, Bob, before we head out today.
Well, number one, as I've always said with every one of these podcasts, I learned some things I didn't know about Mike, which is fantastic. And it's such an honor to have you on, Mike. To me, I look at you. I know you are an Angel world champion, but you'll always be a Dodger in my eyes. So I look at you as the Dodger and one of the greatest of all. And it's been an honor to have you on there. And let me tell you this, even at my age, it's nice to have people you look up to. And Mike, to me, even though he's younger than me, is a role model to me. He's a very happy, a good family man. He's just a good citizen. He's solid as a rock. He lives in this beautiful home on top of a hill. It's God's house, I think. But anyway, his life is great. He's doing great in his life, and I'm so proud of you as not just a baseball player, Mike, as a human being that you are. That's what's really important in the big picture to me, the kind of a human being you are, and you translate to everything that I look up to. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining Harper and I today.
Bob, thank you, and thank Harper. Thank you. I'm not taking credit for all the accolades that people give me. I've got a deep belief, a lot of faith, and I know that things have been put in my life that you shake your head and say, "Wow, where did that come from?" So I'm grateful for everything that I've been given, and I think that I credit, as I think if I talk to you guys about what your foundation is, I credit my mom and dad going back to our house and our family that set all of my brother, my sister, all of us, set us on the right path to respect people, to work hard, and to appreciate everything that you have. And don't worry about it, Mama. Don't worry about what you don't have. Don't worry about what you think you have or you don't have. Appreciate what you have, and I'm very thankful for that. So thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's been a blessed life for sure, and your contribution to the game, as we mentioned earlier, for all that you've done, for all that you will do. The game is better because of you. So thank you for that and for your time. We are grateful for it. Mike Scioscia, everybody. I would like to say thank you for Mike, and for anyone that has a desire on an interview like this to share it, whether it be through your Instagram or your Facebook or YouTube pages. We really encourage that to help grow the program itself. But thank you for being a part of today's show. So that's it. This is 100 yards of football, but this is not just a football show for obvious reasons. With the World Series just completing a couple of days ago, we are honored to have so many of the great baseball historical figures, and Mike has certainly been a part of that, and we are grateful for him being on the show. So we want to say thank you for everybody tuning in. We appreciate it. This has been 100 yards of football, and specifically, this is the sports page with Bob Case. We appreciate you being